Chapter 9:20. Li Qitian was cautious in his actions, so he naturally would not easily believe anyone. However, the timing of this report was too coincidental. Even though Li Qitian did not want to believe that the Liu family would sell an official position, he still had doubts in his heart. Other people did not know, but when Liu Tingzhong went to the south, he used the name of inspecting the people to monitor Pang Xiao. In private, Li Qitian had also arranged other things for him to do. If Liu Tingzhong bought an official position to become an imperial envoy, then it was too scary when one thought about it carefully. Li Qitian was full of gloominess. With a wave of his pen, he rejected the Ministry of Personnel's report. Who would have thought that after this report was rejected once, it was submitted again not long after? Li Qitian rejected it again, and the Ministry of Personnel continued to submit it. They actually submitted 3 reports in a row for this matter. At this time, Li Qitian's face was already dark. He viciously marked down the Liu family in his heart. What a good Liu Hong, daring to play with me. After the Qingming festival, Pang Xiao's health finally improved with each passing day. After returning to the capital to rest for a month, Prince Zhongshuan finally attended the court assembly. When Li Qitian saw Pang Xiao attending court and standing among the civil officials, he felt a bit angry in his heart. He suppressed his anger and said a few words of concern. The rumors outside about him harshly treating a meritorious official had just subsided. Li Qitian really did not want to cause any more trouble. Therefore, regarding Pang Xiao's position after returning to the capital, he needed to carefully consider it. Li Qitian absent-mindedly listened to the officials discuss the matter. He had not yet thought about where to place Pang Xiao when Duke Chang stood up again. Your Majesty, this official wants to report Prince Zhongshan. Duke Chang's report of impeaching Pang Xiao was old news. During this period of time, it would be impeached every few days. Each time, Li Qitian would only say pending investigation. However, today Duke Chang and the officials seemed to have made an agreement. Not only did they talk about the previous reports in rapid succession, it was as if they had made an agreement. Someone even shouted, Prince Zhongshuan appears to be a loyal subject, but in fact he is a scoundrel. He is disrespectful to your Majesty and deliberately created rumors and slanders among the people to slander your Majesty. He really deserves to be punished. Prince Zhongshuan was ordered to guard the south. During this period of time, there was no chaos in the south. He was just doing his duty. Even so, he still dares to claim credit and even incite people to claim credit for himself. He is just trying to force your Majesty to give him a higher position. For the sake of his career, this person is simply unscrupulous. In terms of court affairs, he did not have any achievements. In terms of character, he was truly despicable and hateful. How could such a person be worthy of staying in the capital? We need to let him reflect on himself before we can use him. As soon as he said this, the hall fell silent. Many people's eyes were focused on Pang Xiao. In the past, Pang Xiao claimed that he was sick and did not attend court. If there were any reports, he could only let them do as they wished. Now that Pang Xiao was present, those who agreed with Pang Xiao were anxious in their hearts. They were thinking about how Pang Xiao would explain himself. These officials who supported Pang Xiao knew that Pang Xiao was not a soft persimmon that could be easily squashed. Since he was framed, he naturally had to defend himself. They could finally vent their anger. However, unexpectedly, Pang Xiao kept his mouth shut and lowered his head respectfully as if he was admitting his guilt. This surprised everyone, including Li Qitian. It also made the officials even more excited. They all came up with ideas on how to punish Pang Xiao. It was as if Duke Chang had been injected with chicken blood. He spoke as if he had pushed a cart of walnuts. He did not even pant in the middle. I agree. I think that Prince Zhongshuan's actions are not worthy of the word loyal. He has betrayed your Majesty's grace. Why don't we let Prince Zhongshuan reflect on himself? Now that the world is stable, Huichuan County should start construction. We lack a premier to supervise the construction. I think that Prince Zhongshuan is qualified for this position. Let Prince Zhongshuan supervise the construction of the Imperial Mausoleum to atone for his sins. He can also have time to reflect on his sins. The eyes of the officials lit up and they all agreed. On the other hand, the officials who supported Pang Xiao were cursing Duke Chong in their hearts. This old man was really vicious. The imperial envoys who supervised the construction of the imperial mausoleum in the past did not have a good ending. Duke Chong was pushing Pang Xiao to his death. Some people could not help but stand up to refute. Prince Zhongshuan is a meritorious official and has outstanding talent. Your Majesty will definitely put him in an important position. Let Prince Zhongshuan do the construction of the imperial mausoleum. Isn't it overkill? Naturally, the officials were not convinced. The scene became chaotic. The officials argued until they could not stop. Only Pang Xiao, the person involved, remained silent. At this time, Li Qitian's thoughts were turning. Actually, he also had a headache about participating in Pang Xiao. It was all because he wanted to see a joke in the beginning. That was why he allowed Duke Chong to lead people to mess around. He did not stop Pang Xiao the first time. Later, he did not clear Pang Xiao's name. In the future, he did not have a chance to offend Pang Xiao. Not to mention, Li Qitian still felt uncomfortable. Li Qitian had been worried about Pang Xiao's appointment. His original intention was to not give him a chance to take power. However, the public opinion outside was very strong. If he did not give him a position, it would confirm the rumor that he mistreated his loyal officials. In such a dilemma, Du Chong proposed to have Pang Xiao be the imperial envoy supervising the construction of the imperial mausoleum. This made Li Qitian's eyes light up. It could keep Pang Xiao away from the center of power. It could also catch his mistakes at any time. It could also prevent him from causing trouble in front of him. If word got out, he would build the imperial mausoleum for him. That was an arrangement he made because he trusted Pang Xiao a lot. For Pang Xiao, it was also a kind of glory. It was killing two birds with one stone. Thinking of this, Pang Xiao put down a stone in his heart. His finger tapped happily on the armrest of the dragon chair. The officials below continued to argue happily. Li Qitian looked at them like he was watching a monkey show. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Lu Hong. Li Qitian immediately had a new idea, daring to play him like a monkey and buy officials and nobles to control the court. It was time for Lu Hong to teach him a lesson. Ahem. Li Qitian coughed lightly. When the loyal officials heard this, they froze for a moment. They immediately shut their mouths. The court immediately returned to silence. Li Qitian said, "Zhishi, Your Majesty." Pang Xiao saluted. The construction of Huichuan County has been stopped for a long time. Zhen indeed needs a trustworthy person to be the imperial envoy supervising the construction. Zhen will give this task to you. The officials in the court were so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. The generals who were arguing fiercely with the censors who impeached Pang Xiao were indignant. Someone wanted to stand up for Pang Xiao, who knew that Pang Xiao would be the first to salute. Without any objection, he respectfully and fearfully replied, "This official obeys Your Majesty. Thank Your Majesty for your grace." Li Qitian smiled and nodded. He said again, "Zhong Yiba." Lu Hong lowered his head and thought about Li Qitian's actions today. He was stunned for a moment when he was suddenly called. He hurriedly stood up and saluted. "This official is here." Zhen attaches great importance to the construction of Huichuan County. Since Prince Zhongshuan is the premier supervising the construction, the position of county magistrate will be given to you. You and Prince Zhongshuan are both Zhen's trusted officials. Presumably, the two of you will be able to cooperate and work together to complete this matter. Lu Hong was shocked to the extreme. Ever since the Lu family secretly supported Li Qitian's uprising, it had been more than 10 years. The Dezhou dynasty had been established for 8 years. The Lu family had always been in power, and he gradually gained Li Qitian's trust. Lu Hong was confident that among the nobles in the court, there was no one who could win the emperor's heart more than him. But who would have thought that Your Majesty would suddenly let him be a small county magistrate of Huichuan County? Moreover, the task was to repair the imperial mausoleum, which was a strenuous and thankless task. One must know that many county magistrates of Huichuan County had died consecutively. Lu Heng's heart was uneasy and unconvinced, but from the corner of his eye, he saw that Pang Xiao, such a domineering figure, was now as obedient as a cat. He actually agreed to be the premier supervising the construction of the imperial mausoleum without any objection. It was clear that the current situation was serious. He knew that Your Majesty had always been afraid of Pang Xiao. But if even someone like Pang Xiao was obedient and he stood up to refute, regardless of Your Majesty's considerations, he would only make Your Majesty even more dissatisfied. After thinking 1,000 times, Lu Heng finally knelt down and saluted. "This official thanks Your Majesty for your kindness. This official will do his best to share Your Majesty's burdens." Li Qitian responded with a drawn-out sound. Because of these two people's obedience, Li Qitian was in a good mood. He was also a little afraid that his appointment today would be talked about behind his back. Therefore, Li Qitian added, "Zhixi's body has not recovered yet, so there's no rush to take up the post. It won't be too late for you to set off after you've recovered. The imperial mausoleum matters will be handed over to these two beloved officials. The two of you can discuss and set off." "Thank you very much for Your Majesty. This official obeys Your Majesty's orders." Pang Xiao responded with a neat salute. Li Qitian then expressed his sympathy to Lu Heng. "Zhong Yibo is a newlywed. You should also take up the post with your family." "Yes, this official thanks Your Majesty for his grace." Li Qitian's mood became even better after completing this matter. He was still smiling even when he returned to the imperial study after the court was dismissed. Not to mention how Pang Xiao and Lu Heng would make arrangements for their departure when they returned home separately. The news that Prince Zhongshuan and Zhong Yibo were about to set off together to build the imperial mausoleum spread throughout the imperial court in the blink of an eye. The commoners' discussion was one thing. After all, they were far away from power struggles and did not know much about the imperial court's matters. However, the people who worked in the imperial court all saw this with their own eyes. In the Tiger Army, who worshipped Pang Xiao, several of the main generals were filled with righteous indignation when they heard this news. Who would have thought that Wang Yi would risk his life to fight so many long battles for Your Majesty? In the end, he would end up going to build the imperial mausoleum. Damn it! What kind of official is building the imperial mausoleum? Isn't this using a butcher's knife to poke an ant? Most importantly, I've seen very few officials who build the imperial mausoleum end up well. This is trying to torture Wang Yi to death. Everyone was indignant, but there were also some who remained clear-headed and tried to persuade the furious people around them. All right. Everyone, don't make a ruckus. If others hear about this, I'm afraid it will cause trouble for Wang Yi. Wang Yi is wholeheartedly loyal to Your Majesty. Naturally, he will happily accept the edict. If we say this, and someone with ulterior motives hears about it, they will slander Wang Yi for being dissatisfied with Your Majesty. Then wouldn't Wang Yi be even more wronged? Although that's the case, Your Majesty is too. You're still talking. Why aren't you shutting up? Several people reminded each other, afraid that trouble would come from careless talk. However, even the one who maintained his rationality and stopped others was also furious. Since ancient times, there was a saying that the hound was cooked after the cunning hare was served. How long had it been since the establishment of the Dezhou dynasty? Getting rid of the donkey after it had left the millstone was too fast. Chapter 9:21. At this time, Siyu and Su Weiji were also gathered in the study in the outer courtyard of the Wang estate with a few strategists, waiting for Pang Xiao and Qin Yining. Everyone's expressions were very serious. They originally thought that Pang Xiao had made great contributions in the south. Now that the new Southern Yan Emperor, Yuqi Chuan, was young and ignorant and was surrounded by powerful officials, they would be busy with internal affairs for a long time and would not dare to take the initiative to disturb the border. Although Pang Xiao had indeed delayed his return to the capital, this was insignificant compared to Pang Xiao's contributions. Who would have thought that Your Majesty would actually not care about feelings or contributions and arrange this kind of official position for Pang Xiao? This clearly showed that he wanted to take advantage of the situation to harm Pang Xiao. The national treasury was empty, and the construction of the imperial mausoleum had been interrupted several times for various reasons. To put it bluntly, it was a lack of manpower and money. Even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. This kind of situation, no matter who it was, they would have to face a huge mess. If Pang Xiao took office, the situation would not improve at all. When the time came, wouldn't they be able to casually find a mistake and pin a crime on Pang Xiao? Xiaoyu was both angry and sighed. Who would have thought that such a heroic figure like Wang Yi, who had risked his life for the imperial court for so many years, would actually fall to such a state now? The strategists also sighed. Pang Xiao trusted them greatly and had never treated them unfairly. Seeing that Pang Xiao was about to fall to such a state, everyone felt bad. Su Weiji said regretfully, Wang Yi is a magnanimous person, but he is always misunderstood and guarded against. Now, Wang Yi has already been given the position of an official who has to take the blame at any time. If Wang Yi does not react, I'm afraid that the situation will become even more severe in the future. Su Weiji's words were tactful, but everyone present was smart. The content of his hint was very clear. Su Weiji supported Pang Xiao to make early preparations. Xiaoyu nodded slightly and swept his gaze across the people present. He carefully observed everyone's reactions and memorized them. Xiaoyu and Su Weiji were often together. The two understood each other and participated in some secret matters, so they could trust each other. However, they could not completely trust Pang Xiao's strategists. Therefore, they could use this chance that Wang Yi and Wang Fei had not yet arrived. If anyone had any ill intentions, they could be caught early. Even if they had disagreements, they could be caught. If they did not, they could be caught. If they did not agree, they could be caught. After chatting for a while, Pang Xiao and Qin Yining arrived. Hearing the footsteps outside, they all stood up and bowed respectfully. No need for formalities. Everyone, please sit down. Pang Xiao held Qin Yining's hand and sat with her at the head of the table. He smiled and said, Today, I invited everyone here to inform you that your majesty has issued an imperial edict. This king is about to go to Huichuan County to supervise the construction of the imperial mausoleum. When this king's health improves, he will set off. Everyone has followed this king around for so many years. The environment in Huichuan County is not good. If anyone has other arrangements or wants to retire, you can come and find this king in private later. No one expected that at the most critical moment, Pang Xiao would give everyone a chance to withdraw from the camp. Pang Xiao was afraid that his dangerous situation would drag them down, right? The strategists, including Xiaoyu and Su Weiji, couldn't help but be moved. People's hearts were made of flesh. The reason why they followed Pang Xiao was because Pang Xiao knew how to make good use of people. He gave them a space to use their fists and feet. He never put on airs and trusted them very much. Now, Pang Xiao was in the most difficult situation. If he left now, how could he have the face to see his former brothers again? Thinking of this, Xiaoyu and Su Weiji stood up and bowed respectfully. This old man will do his best for Wang Yi. Pang Xiao smiled and said, Good. This king would also like to thank everyone. So, everyone, please make early preparations. When this king's health improves, you can set off. Yes. Everyone responded in unison. Pang Xiao chatted with everyone for a while more before calling them to disperse. Qin Yining and Pang Xiao returned to the inner residence hand in hand. It was the time of spring, and new greenery could be seen everywhere. The willow branches had sprouted tender shoots, and the grass was covered with unknown small flowers. Not to mention the potted flowers that could be seen everywhere in the residence. Qin Yining looked at the tranquil and peaceful scenery and sighed softly. We have only stayed for a few days, and we have to go to Huichuan County again. At that time, we will be so busy that we won't have the time to pay attention to the surrounding scenery. Pang Xiao lowered his eyes. From his angle, he could see Qin Yining's soft and long hair tied up in a bun. The pearl flower tassel hairpin swayed slightly as she walked, shining with a gentle and elegant pearl light. Pang Xiao could finally say what he had been holding in his heart for several days. Sister, actually, I have thought about it carefully these days. The matter of Huichuan County can be settled by Mr. Xie and the others. I also have a lot of people under me. You want me to stay? Qin Yining stopped and looked up at Pang Xiao expressionlessly. He was someone who was not afraid of thousands of soldiers and horses before, but now he was trembling and tongue-tied from being stared at by a little girl. He even didn't know how to explain himself. He cared so much about Qin Yining. How could he bear to make her angry? How could he let her misunderstand him? I just feel that, Jishi, you forgot what we discussed before again. Why do you want to hide me in a place where there is no one when something happens? Why don't you think that I am not those weak girls who can fight side by side with you and won't drag you down and even help you? I know, I have always known. Pang Zhao's voice was a little hurried. She held Qin Yining's hands and said, I never said that you would drag me down. I also know that you're not an ordinary weak girl. Because you're by my side, many of my problems can be solved easily. It can be said that with you around, I'm like a tiger that has grown wings. Then why did you have this idea again? Are you afraid that you will not be able to return from this trip to Huichuan? Qin Yining's words hit the nail on the head. Pang Xiao couldn't find any words to refute and could only say, Sister E, it's fine if others don't know, but you know that the treasure is hidden there. Paper can't hide the truth. If there is any change, it will lead to a fatal disaster. Moreover, Guan Dahu and Liu Ban aren't very intelligent people. Although they want to keep the treasure for themselves, they might accidentally sell us all out. I alone will be enough there. You really don't need to take the risk. Qin Yining's white fingers tapped Pang Zhao's shoulder. I will say this for the last time. You and I are companions who have fought side by side. I don't accept your proposal. In addition, I have also thought of a proper way to find out the truth of the treasure first. I plan to set off for Huichuan County first, just like when we entered the capital. No, Sister E, why not? I entered the capital first. What danger did I encounter? Pang Xiao was speechless for a moment and shook her head. Qin Yining said again, or did I do something wrong and ruin your plan? How could it be? Pang Xiao said anxiously, didn't you do a great job? Even Mr. Xie and the others praise you behind your back a lot. They said that you're a rare female Zhuge in the world and that your ability to see 10 steps ahead of you has reached perfection. They all have to admit defeat. Qin Yining's tense expression eased a little. I'm not a female Zhuge, but I do have some ideas about this matter. You don't have to get involved first. In addition, I will go to Huichuan County first, not to the dragon's lair or the tiger's den. I will go first alone. You will bring some people and set off with Liu Heng later. In this way, there won't be many people who will notice me. Moreover, I am a woman. Will they think that a woman can do anything? Sister E, I know that you are smart. You have encountered danger several times, but you can rely on your smart strategy to survive. This is indeed very amazing, but you can't rely on luck. How can I rely on luck? I'm sure that nothing will happen. Qin Yining said seriously, this time, give me a few bodyguards. I will bring Bing Tang and Ji Yun and set off first with my belongings. Tell your majesty and the courtiers that you arrange for me to go to Huichuan County to buy a house and tidy it up a little. You have just taken office and don't know how long you will stay in Huichuan County. It makes sense for us to buy a house. Moreover, your body has not recovered, so it is suitable for me to go. Whether it is for outsiders or your subordinates, this is the best decision. Pang Xiao had to admit that Qin Yining's analysis was correct. However, although he knew logically, Pang Xiao could not bear to let Qin Yining go no matter what. He had previously proposed to let Qin Yining avoid danger several times, because he was so arrogant sometimes. He always felt that people would only be safe if they were under his watch. However, if they really entered the tiger's den, he was also afraid that Qin Yining would be implicated. He did not expect that this girl not only did not agree, but also made an even more outrageous request. Qin Yining said, Jishi, now is not the time to let your emotions affect your decisions. If I go to buy a house and use the princess consort's name, who would do anything to me? Those people want the treasure, not to act rashly and alert the enemy. They will be stupid to touch me. Because of this, it will be more convenient for me, a woman, to do things after I go. Qin Yining carefully explained the stakes to Pang Xiao again, and finally said, "Don't forget that the two of us have no way out now. Of course, we don't have anything to worry about. You just have to do whatever you need to do. Don't miss the opportunity. Let's finish everything as soon as possible so that we can reunite with our family." Pang Xiao frowned and looked at Qin Yining. She felt distressed, guilty, worried, and helpless. "Sister Yi, you always make me speechless. That's because my methods are good." Qin Yining thought for a while and said, "This time, I will let young Master Mu follow you. Just arrange some guards for me." Pang Xiao became anxious when she heard this. "No, I will only be at ease if Blockhead follows you." "Fool, Huichuan County is not dangerous for me, but the capital is a tiger's den for you. Who can predict the future? What if that person's brain goes haywire and he orders people to harm you? I will only have hope if you are alive. If you are gone, won't I be at the mercy of others?" Chapter 922. Pang Xiao looked at Qin Yining and could not find any words to refute him. Every time this happened, he hated his situation. Why did he have to face such a helpless situation every time? He did not have much ambition. What he hoped for was that Pang Xiao turned around and stroked the loose hair on his forehead in annoyance. Qin Yining looked at Pang Xiao's tall back and sighed softly. He walked up to him, hugged him from behind, and pressed his face against his shoulder. "Jishi, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I won't risk my life for anything. I can swear to you." Pang Xiao pressed her soft and delicate body against his stiff body. He pursed his lips, turned around, and hugged her in his arms. "Sister Yi, I should have let you leave with father-in-law and the others." Qin Yining's voice was muffled in his arms. He smiled and said, "At that time, none of us could leave. If we left, wouldn't we be alerting the enemy?" Pang Xiao certainly knew that Qin Yining was telling the truth. Up until now, every time they encountered danger, they would choose the most appropriate way to deal with it. Many of them were the best way to deal with it at the moment. Pang Xiao hugged Qin Yining and rearranged the current situation in his mind. Finally, he asked, "What do you plan to do after you go?" He was finally willing to listen to her plan and did not immediately stop her the moment she opened her mouth. Qin Yining told him her idea. "Sitong has a branch in Huichuan County. I will contact Sitong after I go. In addition, I will take the opportunity to investigate the local situation and find a way to contact Liu Ban, Guandahu, and the others. Now that your majesty suddenly decreed that Zhong Yiba will be the county magistrate of Huichuan County, then Guandahu and the others will definitely not be able to buy official positions. Whether the money is wasted or not is secondary. The most important thing is that they have a guilty conscience. Once they know that you and Lu Hong are going to take office, they will definitely do something. They will definitely make a move and give me an opportunity to take advantage of it." Pang Xiao's eyes lit up when she heard this. She couldn't help but hug Qin Yining and sigh. "Mr. Su and Mr. Xie have repeatedly praised you as a female Zhuge Liang. Who wouldn't be convinced by this? Even I have to be convinced." Qin Yining smiled and said, "That's because of the situation. There are too many eyes staring at you. In comparison, it'll be more convenient for me to do things. Let's do what we did when we enter the capital. I'll go and arrange everything. If there's anything we need to do together, I'll contact you." Pang Xiao nodded helplessly. "I don't have any other way right now." Pang Xiao knew the situation he was in. Li Qitian was staring at him, his colleagues were staring at him, and the ministers of the various factions each had their own thoughts. In the past, when Qin Huaiyuan was in the imperial court, he was not only a stabilizing force that could stabilize a portion of the people, but he also had a keen insight into the direction of the wind. Although he had many people in his hands now, those people did not have Qin Huaiyuan's wisdom and sharpness. Many things happened in front of their eyes, but they did not notice. Therefore, he had to be on guard and pay attention to any movements. He also had to maintain the foundation that Qin Yining had helped him build among the people at all times. He could not let the people doubt or be disappointed in his words and actions. With his hands and feet tied, there were naturally many things that he could not do. Right now, there was no one else besides Qin Yining who could be so strategic and decisive. "Forget it." Pang Xiao nodded helplessly. I only have one request. At any time, your life is the most important thing. You can't do stupid things just to help me fight for something. You have to put your life first." Seeing that Pang Xiao agreed, Qin Yining said with a smile, "Don't worry, I know." Pang Xiao was very serious. "Sister Yi, you have to promise me that you will never joke about your life. If you do anything that makes me feel that you are risking your life, I will ask Blockhead to help me send you to see Ye." Qin Yining met Pang Xiao's stern eyes and could not help but nod obediently. "I know. I still want to go back and reunite with my family. I also made clothes for Brother Zhao and Brother Han. I can't bear to leave my family, and I can't bear to leave you. How can I risk my life? I cherish my life very much." Pang Xiao hugged Qin Yining tightly and kissed her temples several times. "We have only been together for a short time, and now we have to separate again. It's just a temporary separation. Do you want to delay your trip to Huichuan County? I think Zhong Yibao will never set off too late. Your Majesty said to show mercy by saying that we will set off when we are ready. It is just a polite sentence. If you really recover before you leave, the memorials accusing you of delaying the construction of the Imperial Mausoleum will fly like snowflakes." Pang Xiao was amused by Qin Yining's words. He rubbed her cheeks with his big hand. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt a drop of rain fall on the tip of his nose. The sky had turned gray at some point, and the rolling clouds were blown by a gust of wind. Qin Yining smiled and said, "It's raining. Let's go back quickly." The two held hands and jogged. The rain poured down before the two of them returned to their room. Qin Yining was protected by Pang Xiao and carried a lot of rain. When they reached the corridor, the two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh when they saw each other's drenched appearance. After Qin Yining and Pang Xiao discussed, they prepared to set off. Pang Xiao arranged Tang Xiu and other Jinghu Wei to Qin Yining. He also sent Xie Yu to Qin Yining. Mr. Xie is outstanding in strategy and is good at making decisions. He is also proficient in disguise. With him by your side, I feel more at ease." Qin Yining persuaded Pang Xiao to leave Mu Jinghu behind to protect her. This time, it was naturally Pang Xiao's arrangement. She agreed to everything. If she disagreed, Pang Xiao would have the idea of placing Mu Jinghu by her side again. Pang Xiao would really have no one to rely on if they encountered any danger. It wasn't that he didn't trust Huzi, Su Weiji, and the other Jinghu Wei, but which ordinary person could have such superb martial arts skills as Mu Jinghu? Qin Yining made preparations to set off in full swing. To outsiders, he only told them that he was going to buy a house. This news reached Zhong Yibao's residence. When Bian Ruhan heard the news, he couldn't help but sneer. He slammed an ivory comb on the table. "Both of us are going to take up the position with our husbands. This madam hasn't thought of what to do yet, but that shameless little whore knows how to show off. Does it show that she knows a lot? Hey, she's just a cheap whore who has been toyed with by countless people." When Bian Ruhan scolded, none of the servant girls who served him dared to react. They all lowered their heads and tried their best to reduce their presence. That day, Madame entered the palace and caused concubine Zhuang to be scolded by your majesty. Later, they were called home by master to punish them severely. Their calves were still swollen from being whipped with rattan vines. They insisted that Madame had done something wrong and that they, as servants, didn't know how to console her. But they were just servants. They had no right to speak in front of Madame. What else could they do? "Uncle!" A servant girl's greeting came from outside the door. Then, the beaded curtain lifted and Lu Heng walked in quickly. An oil paper umbrella was placed outside the door. His soft boots were already wet from the rain. "Uncle, you're back? It's raining outside. You didn't get wet, did you? Why didn't you ask them to follow you?" Bian Ruhan touched the tasseled hairpin in his hair and quickly walked forward. Lu Heng didn't even bother to look at him. He only said, "I've already instructed people to prepare the journey. You don't have to trouble yourself." Bian Ruhan's eyes lit up. "Uncle, many thanks for Uncle's understanding. This concubine is actually not tired. This concubine is very willing to help Uncle. What I mean is that you don't have to trouble yourself with preparing the journey." "What?" Bian Ruhan suddenly raised his voice. You actually don't plan on bringing me along?" Lu Heng smiled. I'm going to take up an appointment. When the time comes, there will be too many things to do. I won't be able to take care of you. Moreover, if you go, you'll have to suffer along with me. You can stay in a capital with peace of mind and be filial to your parents. You don't go too far. Aren't my parents your father-in-law and mother-in-law? You're not even willing to call them that. Moreover, didn't your majesty say that we're newlyweds? Lu Heng waved his hand to stop Bien Ruhan's words. I think that we should maintain an appropriate distance so that we can maintain the novelty of each other. If we get to know each other too well, I'm afraid that we won't even have any fantasies. At the banquet, Bien Ruhan's face turned purple and his fists were tightly clenched. People like Lu Heng didn't even use vulgarities when they were in love. He was clearly mocking him, but every word he said pierced her heart. Bien Ruhan's tears streamed down. He grabbed Lu Heng's arm and pulled. Let's go. You're coming with me to the palace to see my cousin. What do you mean by humiliating me like this? You look down on the Bien family, but do you also look down on the imperial family? Don't forget that your majesty is my cousin-in-law. Lu Heng sneered and pulled his hand back. If I remember correctly, your sister hasn't taken the position of empress yet, right? Bien Ruhan was so angry that his whole body trembled. He burst into tears. I don't care. I must go to Huichuan County with you. What did I do wrong? I just want to scold that bitch, and then you ignored me like this. Not only did you not consummate the marriage with me, but you also humiliated me with all kinds of words. Even if I'm incompetent, it's not up to you to humiliate me. I'm going to tell your majesty. I'm going to tell the Empress Dowager. Lu Heng smiled. Just make a fuss. If you make a big fuss, I'll still be the one losing face. Bien Ruhan cried loudly. His tears smeared his makeup. He covered his face and ran out without caring about it. The wet nurse and servant girl hurriedly bowed and chased after him. When Lu Heng saw that he had gone far, he sat down on a soft couch by the window and rubbed his eyebrows tiredly. A husband with a virtuous wife would have fewer troubles. However, he didn't have that kind of luck. Ever since he married Madame Bien, he had lost all his face. Now, your majesty's attitude towards him was becoming more and more unpredictable. He was already busy with court matters, and Bien Ruhan still wanted to add to his troubles. In contrast, Qin Yining planned to go to Huichuan County to buy property in order to let Pang Xiao recuperate in peace. How could these two women be compared? He didn't know your majesty's intention of arranging for him to be the Huichuan County magistrate. In order to confirm, he would let Bien Ruhan make a fuss. Anyway, it was a woman's matter. Even if she offended the nobles in the palace, it was a problem with the Bien family's upbringing. It would be a good opportunity to see the palace's attitude. As for whether Bien Ruhan would be punished for crying casually. Chapter 923. Bien Ruhan was sent back by the palace servants before the hour of Su. When Lu Heng learned that eunuch Li from Sun Palace had come, he put on a straw raincoat and a rain hat and personally went to welcome him. Eunuch Li smiled and bowed to Lu Heng. Count, this servant greets you. The Empress Dowager specifically ordered this servant to send Madame back. Now that she has safely arrived, this servant has completed his task. You're too kind. It's so late, and I still have to trouble Eunuch Li to make a trip. It's really hard on you. Lu Heng smiled and stepped forward. He naturally handed over a brocade pouch that was filled with golden sunflower seeds. Eunuch Li knew what was inside just by twisting and turning it. He smiled and put it into his arms. His attitude was more attentive and flattering. How can you say this? This is this servant's duty. Zhong Yiba is too polite. What are you talking about? It's so cold. I only invited Eunuch Li to drink wine to warm you up. Does the Empress Dowager have any orders? Eunuch Li glanced at Bien Ruhan, who was silent and had his head lowered. He pulled Lu Heng to the side and said in a low voice, the Empress Dowager was originally in a good mood today. The Empress Dowager is old and loves to see the younger generation live peacefully and happily. Zhong Yiba is a sensible person and should understand. When Lu Heng heard this, how could he not understand? The Empress Dowager was originally in a good mood. Therefore, Bien Ruhan must have stirred things up. The Empress Dowager loved to see the younger generation live peacefully and happily. She was tired of the newlyweds causing trouble in the palace. Therefore, he couldn't keep Bien Ruhan in the capital. He still had to take her with him when he took office. Otherwise, if the Empress Dowager heard about it, it wouldn't be peacefully and happily. The Empress Dowager's intention might be Your Majesty's intention. He couldn't ignore it. Lu Hong was annoyed in his heart, but on the surface, he was very grateful. He thanked him repeatedly. Thank you for your advice, eunuch Li. Hey, Count Bo is too polite. You are Your Majesty's right-hand man, and the Empress Dowager thinks highly of you. In the future, this servant will have to trouble Count Bo, whether big or small. Lu Hong had always known that eunuch Li of Sun Palace was somewhat greedy for petty gains. Hearing this, he naturally understood that eunuch Li intended to ask him for something in the future. Now, he would say in advance. Lu Hong and eunuch Li exchanged a few more pleasantries before personally escorting them out of the Lu residence with an umbrella. After returning to his room, Lu Hong stood beside the bed and looked at Bien Ruhan, who was lying on his side with his back facing him. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. His voice became gentle. This time, it's all over the palace. Are you still angry? Bien Ruhan suddenly sat up, hugging the blanket. She looked up at Lu Hong with grievance. Her tears fell again. Her voice was hoarse as she said, I know you dislike me. I also know that I was wrong that day. But you always get angry at me because of that slut. I wasn't born to vent your anger for you. I already know that I shouldn't have caused trouble, but you still won't let it go. You're not willing to pay attention to me, causing me to be unable to raise my head at home. When Bien Ruhan said this, she couldn't help but burst into tears. Lu Hong rubbed the space between his brows. He put on a smile and walked to the bed to sit down. His large hand gently stroked her tear-stained cheeks. Still crying, Bien Ruhan forgot to cry. Her eyes were wide open as she looked at Lu Hong. This was the first time Lu Hong was so close to her. It was the first time he was willing to take the initiative to touch her skin. This man was the head of the Lu family, the current dynasty's Zhong Yiba. He was born so handsome. Just like her mother said, she was originally going to marry him to be his second wife. How could she expect this man to be as pure as ice and as pure as jade? Moreover, when a man was in his teens, he had to know the ways of the world. He had slept with many women. No matter how much he cheated, she was still the legitimate Madame Zhong Yiba. No one dared to change this. In any case, she was also a relative of the imperial family. She wasn't born bad. It was just that she was too arrogant and willful. Thinking of this, a pair of lotus arms took the initiative to wrap around Lu Hong. Bien Ruhan's cheeks flushed red. Earl, this concubine knows that she was wrong. In the future, I won't cause trouble like this. I won't go to the palace to talk about our family matters. Okay? Lu Hong smiled. His large hand reached into her lapel and kneaded. She blushed and whimpered. She took the initiative to offer her red lips, but he inadvertently avoided them. Your Majesty probably won't give him the right to be willful. Since things had already come to this point and couldn't be changed, he just needed to care about being harmonious and beautiful. Wang Fei, it has been raining for 4 or 5 days in a row. If it continues like this, won't it delay our journey? Jian brought a bowl of hot tea to Qin Yining. Have some hot tea to warm your body. Qin Yining nodded. When his slightly cold fingers touched the warm teacup, the warmth rushed through his pores, making Qin Yining sigh comfortably. It's raining. It's not summer yet, but feels like autumn. Let's take more warm clothes when we set off. Huichuan County is further north than here. I brought everything for you. It's enough for you to wear on the road. If it's not enough, we can go to Huichuan County to buy some. At this moment, Pang Xiao came back. Zi Yuan and Han Xiao took Pang Xiao's umbrella and put it outside. Ji Yun and Bing Tang also served tea and left. Qin Yining smiled and said, Have you discussed everything? Yes. The weather hasn't been good recently. Do you want to wait for the rain to stop before setting off? Pang Xiao sat down beside Qin Yining, poured himself a cup of hot tea, and took a sip. Qin Yining shook his head. Let's follow the original plan and set off the day after tomorrow. If it rains, we'll walk slower. Huichuan County is not far from the capital, so we'll arrive in half a month. Pang Xiao nodded. He was reluctant to let her go, but he had to let her go. The two of them were entangled with each other for 2 days. During these 2 days, the rain was still falling. Qin Yining set off. A lot of water had accumulated on the official road outside the city, and the road was very wet. Qin Yining lifted the curtain of the carriage and said with a smile, "You should go back quickly. We'll see each other soon. Don't worry, with Mr. Xie and so many Jinghu Wei around, I'll be fine." In the opposite carriage, Pang Xiao also lifted the curtain and looked at her. He was still ill, so he naturally couldn't ride out by himself. However, he felt really uncomfortable that he couldn't send Qin Yining off. Well, while the time is still good, let's set off quickly. The situation on the road is uncertain in the rain, so don't miss the time to stay. Pang Xiao ordered Tang Xiu, who was accompanying Qin Yining. Yes, Tang Xiu responded and turned to give an order. The carriage slowly set off. Qin Yining smiled and waved at Pang Xiao. Pang Xiao also smiled at Qin Yining. He leaned out half of his body and kept staring at Qin Yining. When the carriage gradually disappeared into the distance, he sat up helplessly and ordered, "Let's go back." Qin Yining's heart was empty when she suddenly parted with Pang Xiao. The two of them were too happy when they were together. When they suddenly separated, they felt that it was too quiet. However, no matter what she did now, it was for the sake of not being separated from Pang Xiao for the rest of her life. It was just a short separation, so it didn't matter much. Qin Yining's trip wasn't smooth because it was difficult to travel in the rain, and the wheels often sank into the mud. I don't know what's wrong with the weather. Could it be that there's a leak? The rain has been falling for half a month, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. We haven't seen the sun for a long time. Yes, they say that spring rain is as precious as oil. However, if there's too much oil, won't the crops be damaged? Bing Tang and Ji Yun were very worried. Ji Yun even said, "Ever since Your Majesty issued a decree to let Wang Yi go to Huichuan County to supervise the construction of the Imperial Mausoleum, the weather has been bad. Could it be that the heavens are also complaining about the injustice for our Wang Yi?" Qin Yining smiled. "All right, you're thinking too much. The rain is decided by the heavens. It's not something that humans can interfere with." Bing Tang and Ji Yun didn't think so. They knew better than anyone else how seriously Your Majesty suppressed Wang Yi and Wang Fei. Wang Yi had done so much for the imperial court, but he was gradually weakened to this extent. Wang Fei could only send her family and children away and fake her death to save her life. His Majesty's actions, not to mention others, even they, the servants, were bitterly disappointed. It was hard to say if the heavens didn't like the things Your Majesty did and gave a warning. However, since Qin Yining didn't allow them to say anything, they put away their thoughts and didn't mention this matter. Just as Qin Yining's inconspicuous convoy slowly approached Huichuan County, in an ordinary person's house in Huichuan County, a man with a medium build, a dark complexion, and a mustache was pacing back and forth in the house with his hands behind his back. His robes and boots were stained with mud that hadn't dried yet. It was obvious that he had just returned from outside. He had messy footprints on the floor of the house. "Big brother, this Zhou family doesn't know how to appreciate our kindness. We brothers have already used our family skills in front of him, but he still doesn't give us any face," another taller middle-aged man said. "This Liu family's work is too unreliable," the man pacing in the middle of the house said. If Qin Yining was here, he would definitely be able to tell that he was Guan Dahu. This was because his hoarse voice was truly unforgettable. "We bought the county magistrate from the Liu family, but who would have thought that the old emperor would suddenly interfere and give us the title of county magistrate? Our county magistrate is definitely going to be replaced." "That's right. Wouldn't all our money have gone to waste?" "That's not a problem. The Liu family has a large business, so they won't go back on their word. However, we have already done everything we could to get the money to buy the official position. The Liu family won't be returning the money in the short term, so it won't be possible for us to buy another official position. We can only take advantage of the time before the new county magistrate and the imperial envoy arrive." Speaking to this point, Guandaho looked around. Other than Lu Ban, there were 4 other men in the house. They were all brothers from the Qingtian alliance who were willing to work with them. There are only 6 of us. That thing is mixed in with a large amount of stone. Although I roughly know where it is, with the strength of the 6 of us, it is impossible for us to move it. It is harder than ascending to the heavens to steal it without alerting the government. Chapter 924. Everyone's blood boiled as they spoke. Who in the Hafing stockade wouldn't betray us? A hothead stood out and asked. Guandaho laughed. Of course I won't tell them what we're going to do. I'll just say that we're going to steal some stones from the imperial court. The Hafing stockade has been in the underworld for many years, so they've naturally heard of the Qingtian alliance. What does our Qingtian alliance do in the south? Lu Ban said, of course we're going against the dog, Emperor. Yes, that's why the Hafing stockade probably thinks that we're going against the Emperor, so we're going to steal the stones from the Emperor's mausoleum to show off. After all, stealing the stones to build the mausoleum was the biggest challenge to the Emperor's authority. Guandahu said, they're all Jianghu people. When the time comes, we'll just give them some money in the name of chivalry. They'll help us do this and are afraid of being beheaded, so they won't be stupid enough to reveal it themselves. Once the 6 of us get the money, we'll just run away. The world is so big. Do you think the Emperor can catch us? Hearing this, they couldn't help but feel excited. Since ancient times, wealth came from danger. They were only one step away from success. As long as they had the money to hire the Hafing stockade people to move the stones, wouldn't that be enough? Why don't we take another risk? Lu Ban anxiously gestured with a fierce look in his eyes. Guandahu pursed his lips and thought, let's think of another way. When they went to Danzhou Prefecture's Lu family to buy an official position, they had to exterminate 2 large families to gather the money. For this money, their hands were stained with blood. Guandahu tapped his feet. There's still 2 large families here. Let's use peaceful means before resorting to force. If they're willing to sponsor us, then it'll be good. If not, then we can only use that method. Lu Ban and the others nodded in agreement. Just as Guandahu said, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one was willing to kill people. Killing people wasn't a good experience. When Qin Yining and the others arrived at Huichuan County, it was the afternoon of the first day of the 5th month. Although it was still early in the morning, the lead gray clouds were pressing down on the top of their heads. The strong wind blew so hard that the car door was cracked open and tiny raindrops drilled into the car. Your Highness, this is really... Fortunately, we are almost there. Yes. Qin Yining's dress was soaked by the rain. Halfway there, the car started to leak. The 10-day journey was even more torturous than when we went to Beijing. Bing Tang hurriedly covered Qin Yining from the rain and couldn't help complaining. Jian smiled and said, all right, look at you. You've been nagging the whole way. You're pouting so much that you can hang an oil bottle from your mouth. If Huzi sees you, won't he laugh at you? Bing Tang's face immediately turned red. He straightened his neck and said, anyway, he's with Wang Yi. You, on the other hand, are drenched like a drowned rat. Imperial bodyguard Tang will laugh at you. You naughty girl. Jiyan also blushed. Qin Yining stroked his hair that was soaked by the rain. When he saw the 2 girls teasing each other with red faces, he couldn't help but laugh. Tang Xiao, who was following closely outside the carriage, heard the conversation inside. Her face was so red that it could evaporate a layer of white mist from the rain. The group quickly entered the city. Because the journey was short, they thought that they would arrive soon, so they didn't order anyone to take the lead in advance. After the group asked around, they directly went to the largest inn in the area and booked the side courtyard that no one had rented before. Your Highness, this servant has already told the innkeeper to prepare hot water. You should take a hot bath later. Our small courtyard has a small stove that can boil water. This servant will cook some ginger soup later. Let's all have some, Bing Tang said. Qin Yining nodded. You should quickly change into dry clothes first. It won't be too late to go later. Okay, I'll have to trouble you to prepare some more. Sir Xie is old, and the imperial bodyguards have been drenched by the rain along the way. Everyone should eat some. Got it. Bing Tang nodded with a smile. Shi and Jian first helped Qin Yining change his clothes. When Ziyuan and Han Xiao came back after changing their clothes, they went out to tidy up. Qin Yining took the hot tea brought by Han Xiao and held it with both hands. The weather in May had become cold because of the continuous rain. Qin Yining walked to the window and opened a gap in the lattice to look into the courtyard. There were 3 main rooms, 2 side rooms, and a row of inverted seats in the courtyard. Only the middle part of the courtyard was paved with stone bricks in the shape of a cross. The rest of the courtyard was covered with dirt, and it was now muddy from the rain. Looking up, the sky was dark, as if it would press down at any time. From the capital to Huichuan County, it had been raining for more than 10 days. He didn't know how many places had been affected by the heavy rain. Qin Yining wanted to go back and look for the court bulletin to take a look. After settling down, Qin Yining asked Bing Tang to check Xieyu's pulse to make sure that the old lady didn't catch a cold. Xieyou was very grateful for Qin Yining's meticulousness. "Tang girl, go back and thank the princess for this old man." "Yes." Bing Tang smiled and put away the pulse pillow. Then, she said with a smile, "The princess asked me to tell Sir Xie that it's been raining for a long time. It's not normal. The princess wants to look at the court bulletin to see if anything major has happened. The princess and this old man have the same idea. Tomorrow morning, I'll go and find out what's going on. Oh, then I'll have to trouble Sir Xie. It's no big deal. It's my duty." Bing Tang went back and told Qin Yining. It was a quiet night. The next day, Qin Yining saw Xieyou and didn't intend to go out for the time being. She had to understand the local situation before she went to see the people from Sitong. When Xieyou came back, she brought back a piece of shocking news. "Princess, things aren't good. The rain doesn't just fall on the roads to the capital and Huichuan County. There are different degrees of heavy rain everywhere, especially in the south. With the old capital of Dian as the center, the rain is very heavy." Qin Yining frowned when he heard this. "I'm afraid that the imperial court isn't rich anymore. The world isn't peaceful. After all these years of fighting in the east and west, Beiji's treasury has probably been emptied. Even the imperial mausoleum has been repaired and stopped. If there's a flood now, the national treasury will be even more burdened." The national treasury had been short on money for a long time. Otherwise, Li Qitian wouldn't have been so focused on the Dian treasure to solve this urgent problem. If they wanted to increase their income and reduce their expenditure, they had to think of a way and have time to implement it. If there was a flood in the south, Qin Yining couldn't imagine what the Dazhou dynasty would be like and what Li Qitian would come up with to solve this urgent problem. Xieyou and Qin Yining fell into deep thought. "I'm afraid that the national treasury won't be able to support the construction of the imperial mausoleum. When the time comes, will your majesty blame Wang Yi for it?" Qin Yining nodded worriedly. "I'm also worried about this." Li Qitian was thinking of ways to weaken Pang Xiao and take the opportunity to impeach Pang Xiao. If Li Qitian really had a chance on this matter, he would definitely think of ways to kill Pang Xiao. The two were silent for a long time. Qin Yining smiled and said, "The flood isn't something that you and I can control. We can only deal with it as it comes. The most important thing is to solve the problem at hand." Xieyou smiled and nodded. Wang Fei's thoughts are clear. This is good. At the beginning, he had been worried that Qin Yining would be impulsive and spend too much effort on things that they couldn't control. Now it seemed that he had worried too much. It seemed that he had made the mistake of underestimating women. This couldn't happen again in the future. Qin Yining and Xieyou discussed what to do in the future. After they sorted out the plan, they each went back to rest. When they woke up the next day, the sky was still dark. Even though the rain had stopped, it looked like there would be another heavy rain soon. After eating breakfast, Qin Yining asked, "Where's Sir Xie?" Sir Xie took 2 Jinghu Wei servants and left. He said that he was going to find a house. Ji Yin said with a smile. Qin Yining nodded and said, "Then today, let's go to Sitong number to take a look." Ji Yun and Bing Tang went out to prepare. Most of the roads in the city were not paved with stone, so the roads were very muddy. When Qin Yining and the others passed by the gates of Sitong number, Qin Yining ordered, "Keep going." The Jinghu Wei who was driving the carriage immediately obeyed and continued forward. When they passed the street corner, He asked, Wang Fei, we're not going to see Tong number? Qin Yining said, we'll stop at an inconspicuous place in the back. You stay here and guard. I'll only take 2 servant girls. This way, we won't attract too much attention. Yes, Jing Wei said with a smile. You're so considerate. If it wasn't for Wang Fei's reminder, he probably would have directly driven the carriage there. Wouldn't that be too eye-catching? Qin Yining arranged everything and brought people to the side door of Si Tong number. He handed the maple leaf-shaped jade tablet that Qiu Feishan gave him to Ji Yun. Go knock on the door and ask to see them. Okay. Ji Yun wore wooden clogs outside her embroidered shoes and held an oil paper umbrella. She lightly walked over a puddle of water and knocked on the side door. Not long after, a waiter came to answer the door. When he saw that it was a pretty servant girl with a romantic appearance, looking at her clothes and aura, he knew that she was not a local. The waiter smiled and said, Oh, an honored guest has come. Do you have any orders? Ji Yun smiled and shook the maple leaf-shaped jade tablet, saying, Is the person in charge here? When the waiter saw the character Qiu on the green jade maple leaf, he immediately straightened his expression and bowed, saying, Yes, yes. Please wait a moment. This little one will immediately pass on the message. Ji Yun smiled and nodded, standing under the porch and waiting. Bing Tang and Qin Yining shared a large oil paper umbrella and couldn't help but whisper, It's raining again. Although it's not very heavy, it's really annoying to keep raining like this. That's right. Qin Yining worriedly stretched her white, jade-like fingers out of the umbrella. Raindrops fell on her fingertips from time to time, causing her to be so cold that she hurriedly retracted her hand. Chapter 925. Ji Yun smiled and avoided his greeting, quickly returning the greeting respectfully. This servant didn't make it clear. That person is this servant's master. Oh, Ji Yun turned and supported Qin Yining to the side door. The shopkeeper also saw Qin Yining's appearance and remembered the description of a fairy-like young woman in the letter from the boss some time ago. He suddenly realized and bowed respectfully, then lowered his voice and asked, Are you Prince Zhongshuan's consort? Qin Yining raised his eyebrows. You recognize me? No. This servant has never met you before. It's just that in the letter from the boss a few days ago, he mentioned that Prince Zhongshuan's consort would be arriving soon. He also instructed this servant to listen to all your orders. This servant's surname is Yin, and my name is Wu Ji. In the future, this servant will do his best to carry out your orders. Shopkeeper Yin is too polite. Qin Yining couldn't help but sigh at Qiu Feishan's intelligence and arrangements. It seemed that she still cared about Pang Zhao's matter. Mu Jinghu and Pang Xiao were now in the same boat. For the sake of Mu Jinghu, Qiu Feishan wouldn't ignore Pang Zhao's troubles, right? However, Qiu Feishan had arranged everything properly, saving her a lot of effort. Shopkeeper Yin respectfully invited Qin Yining in, and the group walked along the corridor to the main hall of the back residence. Please take a seat. Please take a seat too. The two sides politely took their seats according to their statuses. Qin Yining smiled and asked, Has everything been going well these days? If it wasn't for Qiu Feishan's instructions, Shopkeeper Yin would only think that Qin Yining, an outsider, was meddling too much. But thinking about Qin Yining's identity and Qiu Feishan's attitude, Shopkeeper Yin concluded that Qiu Feishan must have sided with Wang Yi. In the future, with Prince Zhongshuan as a big tree, Sitong's shop will be able to do things more smoothly. How could ordinary people like them have the chance to come into contact with high officials and nobles? Now that they had established this relationship, it would only be beneficial to them in the future. Therefore, the opportunity to talk to Qin Yining was extremely rare for him. Your Highness, Shopkeeper Yin said respectfully, thanks to you and Wang Yi, the 4 Access branch has been doing quite well recently. The local branch has also been developing smoothly. Although our business can't compare to the bigger cities, it's still doing quite well. That's good. Qin Yining smiled and said, Wang, you will be coming here to take office soon. Our family will probably be staying in Huichuan County for a long time. I'm afraid we'll have to trouble Shopkeeper Yin to take care of us then. What are you talking about? Just give me your orders. I don't deserve such courtesy. Shopkeeper Een saw that Sheen Ening was polite and didn't have the slightest arrogance of a superior, so he couldn't help but feel comfortable. However, the princess consort was particular about etiquette. He wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could accept such courtesy with a clear conscience. Shopkeeper Een stood up and bowed in fear and trepidation, saying, "Princess consort and Wang Yi, if you need anything in the future, just give me your orders. I'll do my best and won't hesitate to go through water and tread on fire." Sheen Ening smiled and nodded. At this moment, a thought flashed through Shopkeeper Yin's mind, and he suddenly said, "Princess consort, there's actually a difficult matter these days." Sheen Ening raised his eyebrows and asked, "What is it?" Shopkeeper Een pondered for a moment and said, "It's like this. Recently, Huichuan County hasn't been peaceful. I don't know where a group of heroes from the pugilistic world came from. Recently, they've been visiting the big families in Huichuan County and the surrounding area. After visiting, they use the excuse that they lack capital to do business to borrow money from the big families. You also know that they're obviously asking for money. There's no way they'll return the money." Sheen Ening's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He immediately thought of Guan Dahu and his group. What kind of people are they? How many people are there? How do they do things? Shopkeeper Een secretly sighed in relief when he saw that Sheen Ening was asking in detail and didn't intend to be perfunctory. He hurriedly said, "There are about 5 or 6 people in that group. They haven't come to our house yet, and the number of people they send each time varies. That's about it. It's just that these heroes are all skilled in martial arts. When they arrive at a big family's house, they pay particular attention to peaceful means before resorting to force. This means that they need money to do business, so they'll start using their martial arts on the spot. Then, they'll pester and ask for money. Most big families don't want to get involved with such troublesome people. They all think that it's better to avoid unnecessary trouble, so they'll all give them money. There are even some who give them 10 taels or dozens of taels. However, this group of people doesn't seem to be satisfied. If the reward isn't what they want, they'll return it to them." Sheen Ening nodded and said, "So you're worried that they'll come to Four-Way Shop to ask for money?" Shopkeeper Een nodded and sighed. "That's right. You also know that our Four-Way Shop attracts a lot of attention. I'm afraid that even dozens of taels won't be enough to get rid of these people. I'm afraid that it'll attract trouble." At this point, Shopkeeper Een smiled a little bashfully. "Wang, you must have a lot of personal guards by his side. If something really happens, I'll have to trouble the princess consort to take care of them." Sheen Ening smiled and nodded. "Of course. With my relationship with Boss Chiu, I'll naturally have to take care of Four-Way Shop when she's not around." Shopkeeper Een suddenly felt a sense of superiority, as if he was leaning against a big tree for shade. He smiled and said, "Thank you, Princess Consort." The two of them chatted happily for a while. Suddenly, a waiter in front of them came to reply. He spoke so quickly that he sounded like he was pouring beans. "Shopkeeper Een, there are a few people in front of us. They didn't mention what kind of business they were doing, nor did they come to buy anything. They're here to see you." Looking at them, why do they look like those heroes who recently became famous in Huichuan County? The waiter's expression was a little panicked. After all, they were all ordinary businessmen who only wanted to make a living peacefully. They really didn't want to get into trouble. Shopkeeper Een looked at Sheen Ening. "Princess Consort, what do you think?" Sheen Ening thought for a moment and said, "Go meet them and see what they want. Learn from the other big families in the area and give them 10 taels first. It's fine if you can get them to accept it. If they don't agree, then come and ask me again." "Yes." Shopkeeper Een hurriedly agreed. With Sheen Ening's instructions, he had a backbone and quickened his pace as he walked forward. Sheen Ening, Bing Tang, and Ji Yin stayed in the main room of the back residence to drink tea and wait for news from the front. After about the time it took for 2 sticks of incense to burn, Shopkeeper Een finally came back, wiping his sweat. "Princess Consort, this humble one gave them 50 taels, but they still weren't satisfied and said that they wanted to do a big business. If they could get investment, then they could become a shareholder. This humble one said that I was only a small shopkeeper and couldn't make the decision. They then began to pester endlessly and insisted on meeting the owner of Tong's shop. They even said that Tong's shop was a big business and didn't want their business to be ruined. Sweat slid down his forehead again, and shopkeeper Een hurriedly wiped it off with the back of his hand. Princess Consort, what do you think we should do about this situation? Qin Ening propped up his chin and thought for a moment before asking. What did those people look like? Did the person leading them have a very hoarse voice when he spoke? That's right. Does Princess Consort know him? Shopkeeper Een was a little surprised and couldn't help but ask. Then he regretted his quick mouth and tried to salvage the situation. This humble one didn't mean anything else. I was just surprised. I understand. Qin Ening smiled. Shopkeeper Een said, there were 5 people who came, and all of them were tall and strong. The person leading them was dressed like a scholar and had a very hoarse voice. His eyes were very sharp and made people feel uncomfortable just by looking at him. Qin Ening couldn't help but stand up and pace thoughtfully. It seemed that Guan Dahu and the others were in a hurry to gather the money. What were they in a hurry to get the money for? The money he spent to buy the official position from the Liu family was equivalent to going down the drain. He also didn't know when Liu Zheng would get a refund. Now that they were in a hurry to get the money, it must have something to do with the treasure. Qin Ening thought about it, and could only conclude that Guan Dahu wanted to gather the money to hire people to rob the stone. If that was the case, then they were asking for a lot of money. After all, the stone used to build the imperial mausoleum. Even if it was just stone, if someone dared to steal it and was caught by the imperial court, they would be sentenced to death. If they wanted to hire people to do such a dangerous thing, they naturally had to spend a lot of money. Otherwise, who would dare to risk their lives with them? After thinking through this key point, Qin Ening gradually formed a plan in his mind. Shopkeeper Een saw that Qin Ening didn't say anything and asked hesitantly, Princess Consort, what do you think about this? Qin Ening thought about it and said, I already have a plan for this. Go and tell them to come here tomorrow at this time and say that Boss Chio of the 4-way shop wants to see them in person. Princess Consort? Boss Chioshi? Qin Ening smiled and said, just say that. I have my own plans. If they still don't want to leave, just tell them that our 4-way shop has business all over the place and the shops won't run away on their own. If they want to do business and invest, they will naturally need a large amount of money to negotiate with the owners. You're only a shopkeeper, so the amount of money you have in your hands is limited. Shopkeeper Een was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect Princess Consort to be such a flawless person when it came to lying. However, since the owners said in the letter that they would listen to Princess Consort's orders, Shopkeeper Een was naturally happy that he didn't have to do anything. He immediately nodded and went out to deal with them. Not long after, Shopkeeper Een came back looking refreshed and said, Princess Consort. They left and said that they would come back tomorrow. Qin Ening turned around and instructed Jian, go out quietly and have Tang Xiu carefully observe the surroundings to see if there are any eyes. We will go back when the eyes are gone. Yes. Jian nodded and picked up the oil paper umbrella that was standing by the wall. She went to the porch and put on her wooden clogs before quickly walking out. Shopkeeper Een was stunned. Princess Consort, are you worried that those heroes haven't left yet? Qin Ening nodded and said, there's nothing wrong with being cautious. Shopkeeper Een felt cold sweat break out on his forehead. Chapter 926. After an hour, Jian finally returned. Wang Fei, thank goodness you were cautious. Tang Xiu didn't dare to act rashly and only ordered someone to keep an eye on him. However, the weather is too bad. That person probably didn't want to be drenched in the rain and left just now. Qin Ening said, then let's go back first. Standing up, Qin Ening took the cloak Bing Tang handed to him and put on. He smiled as he turned to speak to head Shopkeeper Een. Don't worry, I will come earlier tomorrow. I will have a plan when the time comes. Yes. Head Shopkeeper Een bowed respectfully and sent Qin Ening out the side door. Qin Ening returned to the inn's courtyard. When Xiaoyu and the others returned, he immediately sent someone to invite them in. Xiaoyu knew that Qin Ening had something to do and hurriedly rushed over. Wang Fei, did something happen at Sitong number today? Sir Xie, don't worry. Please sit. Xie saw that Qin Yining's expression was normal and nothing was out of the ordinary. Only then did she relax. She sat down to the side and cupped her hands as she asked, "Does Wang Fei have any orders?" Qin Yining then told Xie about his encounter with Guan Dahe's group at Sidong number today. Xie also said, "Today, when I was looking for a suitable residence in the city, I heard some people talking about this matter. They said that a group of people had been knocking on the doors of large families to ask for money. At that time, this old one had not made any connections to this matter. Wang Fei should already have an idea, right?" "Yes, this is what I was thinking." Qin Yining moved closer to Xie and whispered his plan. He asked, "Sir Xie, what do you think of my idea? Is it feasible?" Xie was very decisive. She had cooperated with Su Weiji in the past, and Su Weiji had come up with several feasible solutions. Xie had heard of them, and she was sure that any one of them would be the best choice for them. After listening to Qin Yining's plan today, he immediately clapped his hands and said, "Wonderful. Wang Fei's chain of plans is very good." Qin Yining smiled and said, "I'm relieved to hear that. If that's the case, I'll have to trouble you tomorrow." "Don't worry about it. It's easy." Xie looked at Qin Yining and then said with a smile, "The boss of Sitong Restaurant is a woman, and a pretty one at that. Anyone who wants to know would know. To say something unpleasant, if it was someone else pretending to be Boss Chio, it would take more effort. Wang Fei, you don't have to." After settling on a plan, Qin Yining woke up early the next morning and ate breakfast. Then, he went to look for Xie. Xie had Qin Yining change into men's clothing. She darkened her face and made her eyebrows slightly thicker. Then, she used a special kind of glue to move the corners of her eyes slightly. Qin Yining didn't feel uncomfortable, but when she looked in the mirror, the shape of her eyes had changed. The corners of her eyes were even raised. Then, she added a few small moles on her face. Qin Yining felt as if he had changed his face. Sir Xie's wonderful hands are truly admirable. Qin Yining sat on the embroidered stool and had Bing Tang help her tie her hair up into a man's bun. Then, he fastened it with a hairpin. Then, she took the waist belt that Bing Tang gave her and put on. Then, she hung the maple leaf-shaped green jade pendant on the waist belt. Xie looked at Qin Yining and said with a smile, "It said that the eyes are the most important part of a person's facial features. Princess Consort's eyes have changed. Your eyebrows have also been drawn differently. Your entire temperament seems to have changed." Qin Yining smiled and said, "Isn't it all because Sir Xie has done a lot of research in this area?" It was fortunate that she had brought Xie along. Otherwise, she wouldn't know what to do if she encountered this kind of situation. Qin Yining still brought the same people from yesterday to accompany her to Sitong Restaurant. They still walked through the side door. After drinking tea at Sitong Restaurant for a while, they waited quietly for a while. Then, head shopkeeper Yin rushed in. "Princess Consort, they're here." Qin Yining grunted when she heard this. When she stood up, she instructed, "From now on, you have to call me boss. You can't call me by the wrong name. Also, the shop assistants are not allowed to say anything." "Yes, yes." Head shopkeeper Yin agreed happily and said with a smile, "Boss, don't worry. I won't say anything wrong." Qin Yining then ordered Bing Tang and Ji Yun to hide behind, leaving only Zi Yuan and Han Xiao behind. Ji Yun and Bing Tang often followed her. When she was kidnapped by Si Qin in the cave, Bing Tang and Ji Yun were both present. It was difficult to guarantee that they wouldn't be recognized by Guan Dahe. It was safer to bring two unfamiliar faces with her. Qin Yining asked head shopkeeper Yin to invite them in. Not long after, there was a burst of footsteps outside. Head shopkeeper Yin politely led a group of people into the central room. Qin Yining didn't get up. She glanced at the group of 5 people who came in. She recognized the 2 leaders at a glance. They were indeed the people who were thrown into the desert by Si Qin with Mrs. Liao that day. It was said that the reason they were able to walk out of the desert alive was because they treated Mrs. Liao as food. Thinking of this, Qin Yining felt a burst of discomfort. She suppressed the feeling of disgust and said with a smile, "It turns out that you are distinguished guests. Please take a seat." Guandahu was a little surprised by the beauty of the person in front of him. It was rumored that the owner of Sitong restaurant was a woman, but he didn't know that she looked like this. However, Guandahu had never cared about women's charms, so he put it aside after looking at her. Since boss is willing to invite us brothers to talk at the back, you must already know that we're going to do a big business, right? Qin Yining smiled and said, I only know the general idea. Why don't you tell me in detail what kind of business you're going to do? How much money do you need to invest, and how long will it take for you to see your capital return? Guandahu was speechless by Qin Yining's questions. Before they came, they had visited so many people, and those people had looked at them with fear and anger. They simply didn't analyze their words in detail and only thought that it was an excuse to make money. This was the first time that someone had asked such detailed questions. It was obvious that they were going to do business with them. Guanda coughed. Liu Ban immediately understood. He tore open half of his shirt, revealing his thick and solid arms. He shook the muscles on his chest and arms. Ha! With a loud roar, he began to practice his martial arts on the spot. Qin Yining didn't know what kind of martial arts this person was practicing, but it seemed that his martial arts weren't bad. In addition, he suddenly rushed into the courtyard and wrapped his arms around the water jar. He shook his arms and lifted the water jar up. Qin Yining looked like he was watching a monkey show. He repeatedly praised, good martial arts, good arm strength. Only then did Guandahu smile and say, as you can see, we brothers are all skilled in martial arts. The person just now was the weakest among us. If we join forces, there's nothing in Huichuan County that can stop us. To be honest, our business this time is a business without any capital. Have you heard that the Taitan agreed to pay tribute after losing the war? The Taitan currently has a large number of imperial concubines to be transported to the capital. We brothers have long disliked the Taitan people, so we plan to recruit soldiers and buy horses to teach them a lesson. While we're at it, we'll snatch all the tributes. Qin Yining really hadn't heard of this matter. However, at this time, he only showed surprise and panic in the face of such an unexpected situation. Qin Yining lowered his voice. You can't say this carelessly. Are you really going to rob the Taitan's tributes? Ha ha ha. At this time, Liu Ban entered the room and put on his clothes. When he saw Qin Yining panicking like a frightened rabbit, he couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Guandahu and the others who came along with him were also laughing. In the end, she was a woman who couldn't stand being scared. Guandahu laughed, his hoarse voice containing a bit of bewitchment and threat. Of course, we won't tell anyone about this matter. However, I believe that you're definitely not an ordinary weak woman since you can do such a big business. The most important thing in business is to keep one's word. You should also be a person who keeps her word. Because you said that you want to cooperate with us, we're telling you. The meaning of Guandahu's words was very clear. They had already told the people in the four-way shop what they were going to do. If the four-way shop refused to cooperate, they definitely wouldn't let it go. Moreover, if the secret was leaked in the future, it would be related to the four-way shop. Qin Yining couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Look what kind of people the Qingtian Alliance had raised. They would even rob and rob. For a treasure, they would go around robbing and threatening. They would do all kinds of shameless things. As the leader of the alliance, she was also sullen. If these people were brought out by her, she would immediately order people to deal with them. However, Qin Yining's face didn't reveal any flaws. He was a bit worried, but more than that, he was excited. Are you really going to cause trouble for the Taitan people? Hearing this, Guandahu immediately felt that there was a chance. This person seemed to have a grudge against the Taitan. Of course, Guandahu said righteously. Don't be fooled by our group of brothers. We are all hot-blooded men. In this chaotic world, we don't have the opportunity to farm. The Taitan people also don't treat the Dezhou people at the border as human beings. They would come to plunder grain for no reason, burning, killing, robbing, and committing all kinds of crimes. Although the Taitan people have been defeated and have admitted defeat, I still don't like them and have long wanted to deal with them. Good. Qin Yining clapped his hands in joy. Seeing Qin Yining like this, the other heroes who came with him also looked as if their blood was boiling for the sake of their country. The iron of the Taytan people is not a good thing. If you want to get the Taytan people, not to mention 50 taels, I can even pay 500 taels. Moreover, you are robbing the Taytan tributes. Isn't this business a sure profit for us? Qin Yining's eyes revealed a greedy light. Guan Dahu and Lu Ban looked at each other. In their hearts, they thought that this stupid woman was really greedy. However, it was also because of her greed that they were able to get more money from her to hire people from the Haifeng stockade. Thinking up to here, Lu Ban and Guan Dahu said in unison, "Yes, this is definitely a profitable business." Qin Yining smiled and said, "Good. How much money do you need to recruit people, and how much money do you still lack?" Chapter 927. 3,000 taels? Qin Yining furrowed his brows and said in an unusual tone, "Are you going to hire thousands of soldiers and horses? 3,000 taels of silver is enough to feed an army." Guan Dahu raised his eyebrows. He was very displeased with Qin Yining's tone. However, the Four Links was a large business, and the owner had the right to be arrogant. Moreover, this was a woman. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Guan Dahu said, "How can there not be money for people and horses? Moreover, we're going to rob the Taytan's tribute convoy. We're facing real Taytan cavalry. If we aren't careful, we might even lose our lives. Even if we can't be responsible for their lives, we still have to give their families money, right? Moreover, there are many unexpected situations. Buying weapons and horses is also money." Speaking to this point, Guan Dahu took a sip of tea to moisten his hoarse throat. Ever since they came out of the desert, his hoarse voice had become even more hoarse. "Moreover, we aren't taking the Four Links money for free. Isn't this considered your investment? The more you invest, the more you will get when the matter is done." Qin Yining nodded in relief. "That's true." Lu Ban lowered his head and curled his lips. Not to mention that they would run away after they got the treasure. They wouldn't give the money to this bitch. Even if they did give it to her, how could she join them in the robbery? How could she determine how much money there was in total? This 4-channel signal was most likely activated by luck, right? Or is there someone else in their family who was in charge, and this bitch was just a shield? Lu Ban wasn't the only one who thought this. The others also thought the same. He felt that she was a woman after all. She was easy to fool. Qin Yining noticed that the three of them were looking at her strangely. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. However, he put on an ambitious expression. "How about this? We'll do as you say. 3,000 taels. After you succeed, I want 50% of the profits." Lu Ban frowned and said unhappily, 50%? You're asking for too much. Don't forget, the ones who are going to risk their lives are us brothers. You didn't do anything, yet you have the nerve to ask for 50%? Qin Yining, on the other hand, was calm and collected. He displayed the crafty side of a businessman to the fullest. "Don't forget, if I don't fork out this sum of money, you won't even have a 50% chance of winning." These words caused Lu Ban to choke. The others were also speechless. They looked at Guan Dahu with questioning gazes. Guan Dahu was a little annoyed by Qin Yining's arrogant attitude. But on second thought, as long as the 4 channels was willing to pay, their matter would be settled. If the 4 channels was unwilling to pay, they wouldn't even have the chance to hire the Blackwind stockade. What's more, whether it was 50-50, 30-70, 40-60, they didn't plan to give a single cent thinking up to this point. Guan Dahu felt that Lu Ban was being too impulsive. He smiled and said, "You're right. How about this? We'll do as you said. After we're done, we'll split the profits equally. As for how much money we need to recruit soldiers, buy horses, and buy weapons, we'll deal with it ourselves. What do you think?" "Good, good." Qin Yining clapped his hands and smiled. "In that case, I wish you all success in advance." He turned around and said to Ziyuan, "Go and tell the shopkeeper to withdraw 3,000 taels of silver." Ziyuan and Han Shao, who were standing on the side, were stunned. When they were suddenly called, they came back to their senses. They quickly calmed down and said, "Yes, boss." Then they quickly walked out. After waiting for a while, Ziyuan came back with a thick stack of 100 taels of silver. She handed it to Qin Yining with both hands. Qin Yining smiled and waved his hand. He raised his chin and signaled her to give it to Guandahu. Guandahu, Lu Ban, and the other's eyes were almost hanging on the silver. At this time, their eyes were shining and they were very excited. Guandahu calmly took the silver, counted it, and put it away. Then, he stood up and said, "Good. Boss Chio is very straightforward. Since you're happy, we're happy too. We'll immediately take action. When we get good news, we'll tell you. Goodbye." "Wait a minute," Qin Yining called out softly. Guandahu and Lu Ban both frowned and looked at Qin Yining. Qin Yining said, "Let's count the money clearly. Let's also write a written agreement. Let's go to the front desk and write a written agreement." Guandahu thought that no matter what they wrote, he wouldn't be able to return the money. It didn't matter whether they wrote a written agreement or not. Therefore, he nodded without hesitation. Qin Yining didn't say much. They went to the front and wrote down the amount clearly. The reason was that they were investing in a business. In the end, both sides signed and pressed their fingerprints. Guandahu signed the agreement with the name Li Dazhuang. Qin Yining signed the agreement with the name Qiu Gue. In any case, Boss Qiu was a woman. She couldn't casually reveal her maiden name. If she wrote something randomly, the other party wouldn't take it to heart since they were here to swindle her. There were 2 copies of the agreement. Both sides carefully held them close to their chests. Only then did Qin Yining say, "Then I congratulate Brother Li on your victory." "Not a problem. Boss Qiu, please wait. Brothers, take care." Qin Yining smiled as he sent them to the door. Seeing the good men put on their bamboo hats and straw raincoats and quickly disappear into the rain, Qin Yining turned around and gave Tang Xiu, who was standing in the corner of the room, a look. Tang Xiu immediately came over. Qin Yining whispered into his ear, "Send someone to keep an eye on them. Don't alert them." "Yes." Tang Xiu immediately nodded and went to make the arrangements. Qin Yining, head shopkeeper Yin, and the others returned to the central room. Head shopkeeper Yin said, "Wang Fei, what do you think these people are planning to do? Can it be trusted?" Naturally, Qin Yining couldn't casually talk about the treasure. Just now, Ziyuan cleverly went to find Ji Yun and Bing Tang and used the money they brought. Therefore, Qin Yining wouldn't tell head shopkeeper Yin about the details. He only smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have a plan for this matter. You just have to control your subordinates well and don't reveal my identity." Head shopkeeper Yin nodded repeatedly. How could he dare to talk nonsense? If he ruined Qin Yining's plan, it would be equivalent to offending Prince Zhongshuan. If he offended Prince Zhongshuan, wouldn't he offend his boss? "Don't worry, including me. I will take good care of all the underlings and not reveal any secrets." "That's good. Thank you for your hard work." Qin Yining rested for a while in Sitong room. After Tang Xiu confirmed that there was no tail, he quietly returned to the inn. Xiu had been waiting for Qin Yining for a long time. When she saw Qin Yining coming back with his subordinates, she couldn't help but smile and say, "Wang Fei, did everything go well today?" "Everything went well. Everything was expected." Qin Yining smiled and sat down at the head of the table. He told Xiu about what had happened today. Finally, he said, "I've already ordered people to follow them and see what they're going to do. In my opinion, what these people said about recruiting people should be true. They probably want to find more people to carry the stones." Qin Yining nodded. "I think so too. Now, let's wait for the news first. It would be better if the spies could see their specific plan clearly." Xiu smiled and said, "That's right." Both of them laughed. Qin Yining then asked about the residence. "We've already found one. The location of the house is pretty good. It's a 2-section residence. The original family only had an elderly couple and a few servants. They said that the entire family moved back to their hometown. They're not in a hurry to sell this residence, but if the price is right, they can sell it. When Wang Fei is free, let's go take a look." "Okay. The residence that Sir Xie has his eyes on should be pretty good." After Qin Yining and Xiu discussed, they went to wash their faces and wash off their disguises. Before washing their faces, they carefully observed their faces and even remembered the positions of the small moles. At night, Jinghu Wei, who Tang Xiu had arranged to gather information, came back. Qin Yining put on his clothes and came out to meet them. "Wang Fei, This subordinate followed that group of people. They took the money and ate a big meal at a restaurant. Then, they left the city before the city gates were closed and went straight to a famous mountain in the northwest. There's a stronghold on the mountain. It seems to be a bandit's nest. This subordinate followed them from afar and did not let them discover our tracks. However, in order to avoid alerting them, we did not follow them. When we came back, we took the opportunity to ask for water from the scattered poor families nearby. That stronghold is called Hafing Stronghold. There are about 100 good men in that stronghold. They usually rob the rich and don't care about helping the poor. However, their appetite is also very big. They even rob the poor. So those people went to contact Hafing Stronghold. Should be. Chin Ening nodded and said with a smile, "It's been hard on you. I've asked them to heat up some chicken soup for you on the stove. Since you're tired now, ask them to cook noodles for you. Go and wash up first. The noodles will be sent over in a while." Jing Huwei had followed Chin Ening for a long time. When he heard this, he did not stand on ceremony. He grinned and said, "Thank you, Wang Fei." He cupped his hands and left. Bing Tang then went to the stove to cook. Chin Ening draped his clothes over himself and hugged a hot water bottle. He sat on the edge of the bed with Ji Yun. Ji Yun said in a low voice, "Wang Fei, do you think those people took the money to cooperate with the people in Hafing Stronghold?" Chin Ening nodded. "It must be. The treasure is hidden very deep. Without manpower, they can't steal the stones. They must have used another set of excuses when they went to Hafing Stronghold. For example, they wanted to cause trouble for the imperial court. They only said that they hired the good men on the mountain to help steal the stones for the emperor's mausoleum to vent their anger." Ji Yun nodded and said, "They used the excuse of robbing the Tatan. The mountain bandits of Hafing Stronghold are living well. Who would be willing to fight with the Tatans?" "That's right." Chin Ening smiled and nodded. Then, a hint of worry appeared between his brows. Ji Yun saw this and asked with some confusion, "What's wrong, Wang Fei? Everything is going according to your plan. Isn't this good?" Chapter 928. Ji Yun was stunned by the question. She blinked her long eyelashes and thought for a while. Then, she shook her head and said, "This servant doesn't think so. Think about it. If they knew where the treasure was hidden, wouldn't they have thought of a way to steal it long ago? No matter how valuable the treasure is, it can't fit in too many boxes, right? The reason why they didn't make a move is because there are too many stones to move. Their goal is uncertain." Chin Ening nodded in agreement. "You're right. I also think that even if they know, they only know the approximate location. So I'm thinking that if they really do move it, it'll be fine if they move all of it. But if they move half of it and leave half of it behind, when the construction starts, the moment they move the stones, the gold, silver, and precious stones will scatter all over the ground." That scene was simply too frightening. Chin Ening couldn't help but rub his brows as he spoke. The silver was engraved with the words manufactured and year. At a glance, one could tell that it was from the Dian dynasty. It was easy to analyze that it was the batch of silver that was hidden by the Dian dynasty's incapable ruler. Once Li Qitian found out about this, things would be difficult to handle. Guan Dahe's motley crew would definitely not be able to defeat the army arranged by Li Qitian. At that time, if Li Qitian obtained the treasure and had the money and the confidence, wouldn't he come to torment Pang Xiao? Chin Ening shook his head. This matter definitely could not be allowed to happen. Chin Ening hugged the quilt and thought for a while. Finally, he made up his mind and asked Ji Yun to call Tang Xiu over. Ji Yun was already sleepy and yawning. When she heard this, she still didn't say anything. She hurriedly pulled on her wooden clogs, put on her small jacket, and went out. Chin Ening put on a cloak with large sleeves and casually tied up her long hair. Then she sat outside and waited. Not long after, Tang Xiu came. Although she was woken up right after she fell asleep, she was still in high spirits. "Princess Consort, do you have any orders?" "Yes. There's an urgent matter that requires you to arrange for someone to do quickly. Please give your orders." Tang Xiu cupped her hands. Chin Ening gestured for her to come closer and whispered, "Arrange for a trustworthy brother to secretly return to the capital and send a message to Wang Yi. Tell him that everything went smoothly when we came to Huichuan County. However, there's one thing that's not good. There's a problem. There. Wang. Tang Xiu blinked, a little dumbfounded. Where did Princess Consort's words come from? If they, the elite Tiger Guards, had followed Wang Fei, they would not have allowed Wang Fei to be harassed by Heifeng Zhai's bandits right under their noses. Wouldn't they have been dragged to the drill grounds by Wang Yi to be taught a lesson? Qin Yining saw Tang Xiu's dazed expression and understood what they were thinking. He chuckled and said, "You don't have to worry. Wang Yi is a smart person. He will understand my intentions immediately. He won't blame you." Tang Xiu's thoughts were exposed. She shyly scratched the back of her head and blushed, as if she was afraid of embarrassing herself. She carefully glanced at Ji Yun's expression. Ji Yun also didn't expect Tang Xiu to look at her with such a silly expression. She couldn't help but blush. She glared at him and looked away. Qin Yining looked at the two of them and understood. He knew that Ji Yun was thin-skinned, so he didn't expose her. He only smiled and said, "It's been hard on you. Go quickly." "Yes, this subordinate will go immediately." Tang Xiu's expression was serious. She responded softly and turned to leave. After she left, Ji Yun went to close the door. When she turned around, she met Qin Yining's playful gaze. She couldn't help blushing and said, "Wang Fei, it's late. You should rest." Qin Yining smiled and said, "All right, come over. Let's sleep together. When Bing Tang comes back, let her sleep on the warm Kong." "Okay," Ji Yun responded. The two of them climbed onto the bed. They each covered themselves with a blanket and lay down next to each other. In the darkness, Qin Yining asked Ji Yun softly, "I see that Imperial Bodyguard Tang has a good character. He is also upright. He seems to have some feelings for you. Ji Yun, what do you think?" Ji Yun was suddenly asked these questions. She woke up from her sleep and said shyly and anxiously, "Wang Fei, why are you learning from that bad girl, Bing Tang?" When Qin Yining heard this tone, he knew that Ji Yun was really moved. He couldn't help but laugh and tease. "How am I bad? Besides, you're already at this age. It's time for you to consider marriage. This isn't a bad thing." Qin Yining turned over and nudged Ji Yun. "Hey, what do you think of him? If you have the heart, I can ask Wang Yi to help you look into his family background for your reference. You're someone by my side. Even if you get married in the future, you'll have to return to my side to be his steward. If his family situation is complicated, we'll have to consider it. He doesn't seem to have any relatives in his family. Just like me, he was saved by Wang Yi. If it wasn't for Wang Yi, he would have starved to death." Ji Yun's tone was slightly anxious. Qin Yining smiled and said, "So you already know so much." Ji Yun then realized that she seemed to have fallen into a trap. She had unknowingly exposed her understanding of Tang Xiu. She couldn't help but say angrily, "Wang Fei is really too bad." She hugged the quilt and turned her back to Qin Yining. "It's so late. This servant won't talk to you anymore. This servant wants to sleep." Qin Yining looked at Ji Yun's back and couldn't help but smile. All right. I won't ask anymore. I'm going to sleep too." Although the situation was tense and the matter of the treasure was tricky, Qin Yining liked the people around her from the bottom of her heart when she saw them so energetic. Ji Yun and Bing Tang had gone through life and death with her. They were loyal to her. She had to be responsible for their future. She also had to consider what kind of person Tang Xiu was before deciding. Jinghu Wei rushed to the capital on horseback. Even in the rainy weather, his speed was faster than Qin Yining's group of carriages. Therefore, Pang Xiao received a message 3 days later. That afternoon, Pang Xiao sent out invitations to invite his former subordinates to the Wang Fu to drink. Pang Xiao had been demoted to be an official in the construction of the Imperial Mausoleum. The generals were more or less dissatisfied. Many of them had already seen the end of their lives from Pang Xiao's experience. Everyone had shed their blood together on the battlefield. Some of them had even been saved by Pang Xiao. The scars on Pang Xiao's body were left behind because of them. Therefore, it was fine if Pang Xiao didn't invite anyone, but he took the initiative to send out invitations. These people all arrived. Pang Xiao was originally not allowed to drink because he was recuperating from his illness, but seeing that his brothers were happy, he still ate a few big bowls. These former subordinates also drank too much. When a man drank too much, it was inevitable that he would be excited and talk too much. Pang Xiao was tongue-tied. His voice was also much louder than usual. He slammed the table and said incoherently, "Everyone, tell me, what kind of man am I? I'm a son. My son can't protect me, and my father can't protect me either. My whole family, including my father-in-law's family, is gone, all gone." Speaking of this sad matter, Pang Zhao's eyes were filled with hot tears. He took a big gulp of wine. When these subordinates heard this, their hearts were also filled with sorrow. A few with shallow eye sockets had already started to howl. Huzi and Su Weiji brought people to pour wine to warm up the atmosphere. When they saw this scene, even those who knew the inside story were affected by the emotions. Their noses also turned sour. Your Majesty really treated Wang Yi too unfairly. He didn't reward Wang Yi for his meritorious service, but he went around looking for flaws. Even if he didn't have any, he still wanted to make one up for him. Who would be able to withstand such treatment? Pang Xiao grabbed the wine bowl with his big hand. This illness of mine came at the wrong time. Fuck, that damn Haifeng stockade. They saw that my wife was pretty, so they flirted with her. If I was useful, my wife wouldn't have to buy a house for me. She wouldn't have been so scared by those bastards from Haifeng stockade that she couldn't sleep. What Haifeng stockade? Wang Yi, are you talking about the stockade in the northwest of Huichuan County? An official in charge of military affairs in the north asked. Pang Zhao's almond-shaped eyes widened. He nodded and said, "That's right, the one next to Huichuan County. It said that there are more than 100 bandits in their stockade, and they commit all kinds of crimes all day long. This is also because I don't have any troops. When I was in the south, I led my brothers from the South Pacifying Army and attacked every stockade we saw. When the southern bandits saw the flag of the South Pacifying Army, they couldn't wait to kneel down and call me Grandpa. I'm now a tiger whose teeth have been pulled out. I'm useless. Otherwise, I'll go and squash those bugs to death." Thinking back to the time when they suppressed Beiji country, the brothers couldn't help but sigh with emotion. When Pang Xiao suppressed the bandits in the south, they had all heard the details from the storytellers. Every time they heard it, their blood would boil with excitement. Now that they were talking about this at the wine table, the brothers couldn't help but feel agitated. Everyone was cursing and swearing under the influence of alcohol, cursing the 18 generations of the road robbers' ancestors. In the end, the official in charge of military affairs in the north said, "I think it's time for our local garrison troops to learn from Wang Yi and train their troops. When we were conquering the world, the army was like a nest of tigers that came down from the mountains. Now that we've been at peace for too long, won't these brothers who went to serve as garrison troops become a nest of kittens instead? Wang Yi's method of attacking the stockade is good. He can train the troops, see blood, and even get some military pay. Why not? Yes, let them go and attack the Haifeng stockade. Not only can they train the troops, but they can also help Her Highness vent her anger." Yes, yes. Everyone shouted and talked at once. While they were half drunk, they decided on the matter. In the end, Pang Xiao couldn't handle the alcohol. He was so drunk that he laid on the table and started snoring. Everyone also passed out drunk in the main hall of the Wang Fu. Hu Zi and Su Weiji brought people to carry the guests one by one and sent them to the guest rooms. Pang Xiao was also carried back to the bedroom by Hu Zi and Jing Wei. After Jing Wei, who carried Pang Xiao, left, Pang Xiao immediately sat up and said in a low voice, "This king is drunk. He might be drunk for 2 days. Tomorrow morning, you will guard the guest rooms and see what they say. If they forget about suppressing the bandits, you can mention it. Wang Yi is afraid that they will pretend to be stupid and not do anything for you." Pang Xiao hiccuped and said helplessly, "After all, I haven't been in office for a long time." No matter how good the relationship between brothers is, it's inevitable that the tea will turn cold when people leave. Just remind them and they will help me out on the surface. Wang Yi, don't worry. Huzi nodded with a smile. They won't. Tomorrow, I will pretend to be stupid and remind them. If they don't do anything, we will have plenty of words to shame them. You have so many ideas. Pang Xiao lay down and said, Tell Mr. Su to prepare for departure. Arrange for people to go to Zhong Yibao's residence to ask when Zhong Yibao plans to leave. Let's also stop the Imperial Academy of Medicine for the time being. Yes, I know. Chapter 929. Guan Dahu and the others had been going to Haifeng Stronghold to discuss business for a few days and had already become familiar with the brothers on Mountain. The stronghold leader's nickname was One Blade, and he had already become brothers with Guan Dahu and the others. On this day, they had another discussion until night. Guan Dahu said, "The old emperor only cares about himself and doesn't care about the lives of others. We brothers will move the stones he used to build the Imperial Mausoleum and vent our anger. In the future, we'll have something to talk about. I'm not doing this for anything else. I just want to vent my anger." With a saber and a beard, he laughed and said, "That's great. I like to deal with straightforward people like Brother Guan. To tell you the truth, I've heard of your Qing-Tian Alliance's reputation in the early years. Your Qing-Tian Alliance is very powerful in the south, and all the men there are like this." As he spoke, he gave a thumbs up. "Brother, I won't lie to you. If it was someone else who came to talk to me about this matter, let alone 3 times, even if it was 300 times, I still wouldn't bring my brothers to do something that could cause me to lose my head. But the way your Qing-Tian Alliance's brothers do things, our brothers on the mountain are all convinced. I won't be polite with you. 3,000 taels. Take it as the money we brothers give to our wives and children to settle down. I'll bring my brothers down and follow you, Brother Duh. Isn't it just moving stones? We'll definitely give that old emperor a hard time. Whoever backs off is a dog." "Good." Guan Dahu laughed and clinked his wine bowl with One Blade's. One Blade drank a mouthful and laughed heartily. He put his arm around Guan Dahu's shoulder and said, "Brother, hey, in the future our Haifeng Stronghold and Qing-Tian Alliance will know each other and be on the same side. Our Haifeng Stronghold is in the north, and Qing-Tian Alliance is in the south. If there's anything, just say the word. Come, cheers." "Cheers." The two drank another bowl. The meal lasted until midnight, and Guan Dahu was almost drunk. However, he still paid the 3,000 taels and agreed to take action on the night of the 16th of May. After finishing the wine, Guan Dahu declined Saber's invitation to stay and went down the mountain with Liu Ban. Liu Ban also drank wine, but he didn't eat as much as Big Tiger. The two of them returned to the small house they were temporarily staying in. After making sure that no one was eavesdropping, Liu Ban asked, "Big brother, you gave the money in advance. Do you think those people from Haifeng Gang will renege on their debt and refuse to go with us?" Guan Dahu opened his mouth and let out a long burp. He shook his head and said, "He won't. Can't you see? That guy One Blade is as cunning as a ghost. He doesn't care about us brothers, but the Green Sky Alliance behind us." The brothers in the underworld all knew that the Green Sky Alliance was very powerful. No matter what, the Black Wind Stockade was just a gang that occupied a mountain and called itself a king. At most, they only had 100 brothers. If the brothers of the Green Sky Alliance gathered together, they would not be able to deal with them. If they agree to my deal, not only will they be able to earn a sum of money, they will also be able to talk to the Green Sky Alliance. Moreover, if the stone is lost, no one will guess that it was stolen by a group of bandits. When bandits have time, they will go rob houses. Who would steal the stone? Liu Ban scratched the back of his head and laughed. "Big brother, you have thought it through. That's the reason. Then we can be at ease and wait for the 16th to make our move." Guan Dahu lay down on the Kong bed and listened to the lingering sound of the rain outside. He said, "Now let's pray that there won't be a big moon on the 16th. "There won't be," Liu Ban promised. "I don't know about other things, but I know about this. After all, I used to be a farmer, so I know about the weather. This rain won't stop for at least half a month. The clouds will be thick. On the 16th, I guarantee that there will be no moon or stars. It will be a dark night." Hearing this, Guan Dahu felt relieved. He was drunk and started snoring with his mouth open. Liu Ban, on the other hand, was thinking about the large amount of gold and silver that was about to come into his hands. He thought about how he would hug beauties in his arms and eat and drink well. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep for half the night. In the next 2 days, Lu Ban and Guan Dahu brought the rest of the brothers to observe the situation near the stone factory. They had a good idea of the terrain. They also calculated the number of carriages needed to move the stone and the horses in the stronghold. Finally, they arranged the route of the stone and the hiding place of the stone. Everything was ready. They only lacked the east wind. On the 15th, it was raining as usual. The continuous rain didn't make Guan Dao, Lu Ban, and the others feel irritated. Tomorrow was the day of the operation. Everyone was so excited that they couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, the brothers were sitting around a simple wooden table. They borrowed the light of an oil lamp to eat meat and drink wine. Suddenly, there was a faint noise coming from the northwest. Guan Dao was half drunk. Hearing the noise, he put down his bowl and scolded with a smile. Damn it, what's going on in the mountains? Who cares? That group of people go out to do business every few days. Maybe they have some good stuff back home. Are they celebrating? Lu Ban laughed. The drunkards all nodded. They all felt that doing business without any cost was good. They could earn a lot of money just by using their strength and scaring people. In the middle of the night, everyone was tired from drinking and found a place to sleep. The next afternoon, the group prepared the carriages and carefully checked the transportation route. They chatted and laughed as they headed to the Black Wind stronghold. Who would have thought that when they were walking halfway, they all felt that something was wrong at the same time? Big brother, why are the footprints on the ground wrong? Guan Dao also lowered his head. After a night of rain, the path up the mountain was very muddy. The messy footprints on the ground were deep and filled with muddy water. Guan Dao squatted down to check, and his face gradually became serious. These footprints were clearly from both up and down the mountain. Most of them looked like they were made by an official's boots. Not good. The Black Wind stronghold is probably... Guan Dao stood up and hesitantly looked up the mountain. Lu Ban also saw that there was something wrong with the footprints. He anxiously said, then the mountain might have been raided by the government and the city guards. Big brother, I'll go up and take a look. Don't act rashly. Guan Dao turned around and walked down the mountain. He did not forget to call his brothers. There might be other soldiers guarding the mountain. If we rashly rush up, it will be the same as sending sheep to the tiger's den. If the government really destroyed the stronghold, they will definitely announce it to the outside world to show off their achievements. Let's go back first and wait for the news. But big brother, we already gave the 3,000 taels to the stronghold. If they don't do anything for us, what should we do? Guan Dao stopped and suddenly turned around to stare at Lu Ban. Do you want to lose the money along with the people? Lu Ban was speechless for a moment. He stared at Guan Dao with red eyes. He knew that Guan Dao was right, but it was not easy for them to get so much money. Before they could do anything, it was all gone. The money in their hands had already been used up. If they wanted to gather more money to hire more people, first, they had no way to get money. Second, they couldn't find anyone more suitable than the Black Wind stockade. Everyone was furious, but there was nothing they could do. They went down the mountain in silence and braved the rain to return to Huichuan City. There, they saw a conspicuous notice in front of the city gate. Even in such a heavy rain, there were still a few commoners looking at it. Some of the literate people read the notice and were overjoyed. The government's army has destroyed the mountain bandits. We are finally at peace here. That's great. This way, we can have a good night's sleep. The commoners were simply rejoicing. But when this good news fell into the ears of Guan Dao and the others, it was like a bolt from the blue. Lu Ban almost shed tears on the spot. Big brother, what should we do? What should we do? Calm down. Guan Dao pinched Lu Ban's arm and lightly reprimanded him. Then he pulled him out of the crowd. The others also followed Guan Dao's footsteps in a daze. When they arrived at the house they rented in the city, they sat around the table with a worried expression. Lu Ban gritted his teeth and cursed in a low voice. Those useless things. They're only fit to be mountain bandits for the rest of their lives. They can't handle big things. How could they be caught? It doesn't matter if they are caught. It has nothing to do with us if they all die. But, Guan Dao said hesitantly, I am worried that they will confess what we are going to do. If those soldiers know that someone is eyeing the stone used to build the imperial mausoleum, I am afraid that they will tighten the defense. At that time, we will not have a chance to act. Hearing this, the few of them were anxious. What should we do? Big brother, think of something. Yes, big brother. If they really confess to us, will the soldiers come looking for us? Should we move to another place? Guan Dahu had a headache and scolded in a low voice. All right, don't panic. I will think of something. Percent compared to the worries of Guan Dahu and the others, Qin Yining was very comfortable. I didn't expect Wang Ye's side to act so quickly. This will save us a lot of trouble. Bing Tang smiled as he tidied up his makeup box. Ji Yun was also quickly tidying up her clothes. Qin Yining lowered his head and fastened the belt at his waist. That person always has a way. Now that we have found our house, Wang Yi should be here soon. That's right. Ji Yun smiled and said, Wang Yi should come quickly. If Wang Yi doesn't come, won't the princess consort get lovesick? Qin Yining burst out laughing when he heard this. You! When did you learn to be glib? Seeing that Qin Yining blushed shamelessly, Ji Yun said in frustration, Isn't it all the princess consort's fault? You always learn from that little brat, Bing Tang. You always say bad things and only know how to bully people. Bing Tang laughed and said, Bodyguard Tang is always in front of you. Of course, you won't get lovesick. Hey, Huzi will be here soon. Are you especially happy? Ji Yun retorted. Bing Tang blushed and snorted. That's right. I especially like it. Qin Yining watched the two maidservants bicker and shook her head in amusement. This was a new amusement for her recently. Ever since Ji Yun and Tang Xiu's matter had some progress, the two in a room would often tease each other and then blush in embarrassment. AI, it's true that a grown girl can't be kept at home. Qin Yining pretended to sigh and walked out of the room with her hands behind her back to put on the wooden box. Ji Yun and Bing Tang were speechless for a moment. In terms of teasing, the princess consort was better. Chapter 9:30. Qin Yining smiled and replied, I know. He turned around and teased Ji Yun. I saw Imperial Bodyguard Tang standing not far away just now. You should pay attention to what you say. Ji Yun's face flushed red. She stomped her feet and said, Princess, you are so bad. When Bing Tang saw her stomping her feet in embarrassment, she pointed at her and laughed. Even Ziyuan and Han Xiao, who had just arrived in Qin Yining's room, also laughed. The sound of laughter in the room spread far and wide. The Jinghu Wei at the entrance of the courtyard also winked at Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu blushed in embarrassment. They were all young people. Tang Xiu and Ji Yun, the head maidservant in the princess's room, were close. Everyone knew that and wished them well in their hearts. It was just that the brothers had a good relationship, so they couldn't help but tease them. When Xiaoyu saw that the group of people were so happy, he didn't say anything about the worries in his heart. The residence that Xiaoyu found was located in the center of the city. It wasn't far from the yamen and the market. The surrounding neighbors were all quite wealthy. Because they had already made preparations, Qin Yining and his group could live normally after moving in. However, there weren't many servants in the house, so Qin Yining didn't want to buy them immediately. He wanted to wait and see for a while. After everyone was ready, Xiaoyu came to Qin Yining. Qin Yining smiled and invited Xiaoyu to sit at the square table in the central room. He personally poured a cup of tea for him. Sir Xia, please enjoy. Xiaoyu held the teacup with one hand and said with a smile, Thank you, princess. Sir Xia is too polite. Sir Xia has put in a lot of effort to find such a suitable residence so quickly. Sir Xia is already so old, but you still have to run around in the rain. I really feel very sorry. Xiaoyu waved his hand. He could see that Qin Yining was sincerely grateful. Pouring a cup of tea and saying a few words from his heart was more comforting than giving him anything else. Xiaoyu beamed with joy. Even if he was worried, he felt happy. Princess, in fact, this old man is worried that the bandits of Heifeng Zhai have been arrested by the local guards and bailiffs. Will they confess that they stole stones from the stone factory? Could it be that they also mentioned those people with the surname Guan? After some thought, Xiaoyu continued, Also, I've been thinking about how that Guan guy managed to get in touch with the Black Wind Stockade. Could it be that he was able to get over 100 bandits in the Black Wind Stockade to obey his orders with just money? Could it be that he was using a fake name? For example, Qin Yining lowered her eyes and thought for a moment. Mr. Xie, you're right. I didn't think of that. He sighed in shame. Everything went according to my plan. I was a bit too complacent. Xie smiled kindly and looked at Qin Yining with a gaze that showed respect for his master and concern for the younger generation. Princess is still young. It's already very rare for you to be able to reach this stage. Perhaps this old man is just thinking too much. Those soldiers might not be willing to interrogate them in detail after capturing them. They might not necessarily confess all of this. Qin Yining shook his head and said, Sir Xie is very meticulous. It's very necessary for you to consider this point. Regardless of whether or not they confess Guandehu, if news of Guandehu pulling the banner of Qing Tian Alliance spreads, I can't avoid being affected. Qin Yining was still the leader of Qing Tian Alliance. He had once led Qing Tian Alliance to help Jin Shang take back the Imperial Palace. If news of this spread, it would have a negative impact. But thinking about it carefully, this was a fact that she couldn't change. We can't act rashly on this matter. Otherwise, we'll be exposing ourselves. We can only wait and see. If someone spouts nonsense, we'll at least have room to refute. This old man also thinks the same. Xie smiled and said, although it's a hidden danger, it's not fatal. Moreover, who would believe the words of a group of mountain bandits? After hearing Sir Xie's words, that's true. If someone really dares to bite me, I'll just cry out that I'm innocent. Xie was amused by Qin Yining's tone. She nodded and said, that's right. Princess, when the time comes, just cry out that you're innocent. It's not a small matter to be framed. Why would those soldiers go and exterminate the mountain bandits? If the mountain bandits frame Wang Yi and Princess, I'm afraid they won't have an easy time in the future. After hearing Xie Yu's analysis, Qin Yining felt much more at ease. He smiled and nodded as he spoke of another matter. I'll have to trouble Sir Xie to help me disguise myself as I did last time. Oh, Xie Yu raised her eyebrows and said, does Princess Consort plan to meet those people again? Yes. They can't count on the Heifeng stronghold anymore. Now that their willpower is weak, it's a good opportunity to take advantage of their weakness. Xie Yu smiled and nodded. That's good too. Let's see what they're really up to. It'll be even better if we can find out the location of those stones. Yes. That's what I was thinking. The two of them discussed for a while before Xie Yu took her leave. Qin Yining had a good night's sleep. The next day, he had Tang Xiu investigate the whereabouts of Guandehu and the others. The Jinghu Wei that Tang Xiu had arranged were all very clever. Everyone quietly investigated the places that these people had frequented recently. So they tried to visit you in prison? Qin Yining smiled in surprise. That's right. Tang Xiu said, the tall and strong one wanted to go, but the one with the hoarse voice stopped him. If you ask me, wouldn't they be walking right into a trap if they want to visit you in prison? Those bailiffs and guards are afraid that the Heifeng stronghold will not be able to catch all the fish that escaped the net. Qin Yining smiled and said, forget it. I think they're desperate and have nowhere else to go. Do they usually stay in a residence in the afternoon? Tang Xiu nodded. Tomorrow, bring a few people to the residence and follow me from afar. I'm going to meet that Li Dazhuang tomorrow. Qin Yining spoke with a hint of mockery when he said this name, which he had made up at the last minute. Tang Xiu smiled and said, don't worry. I'll go and find out where they are tomorrow. Then I'll have to trouble you. No trouble at all. This is your subordinate's duty. Tang Xiu smiled and cupped her hands in salute. The next afternoon, Tang Xiu confirmed that Guandehu and the others were at home. Qin Yining went to find Xie Yu to change her appearance. She used the same method as last time and changed into a man's outfit. Qin Yining looked around in the small mirror. She found that the positions of the maids that Xie Yu had pointed out for her were all correct. She couldn't help but marvel at Xie Yu's ability. Qin Yining still brought along Ziyuan and Han Xiao. He asked Jiyan and Bing Tang to come down and look after the house. He also told Tang Xiu and the others not to come close. The coachman was Jinghu Wei in disguise. The group of people went to Guandehu's rented house. At this time, Guanda's beard was already unshaven. His originally elegant beard was now messy. Lu Ban and the others were not in the mood to do anything. There were even blisters on the corners of their mouths. Lu Ban heard someone calling the door. The person who called the door was a female voice. He opened the door in annoyance. Guandahu and the others picked up the door latch defensively. Once they found out that the Imperial Army was here, they could immediately escape. "Hey, aren't you the one with the 4-channel number?" Lu Ban pointed at Ziyuan. Ziyuan said, "Yes, our boss is here." She opened the umbrella and stepped aside. Only then did Lu Ban see the outside that was covered by the oil paper umbrella. She saw the woman from the 4-way number, who looked especially beautiful, but dressed neither like a man nor a woman, standing not far away with a maid holding an umbrella. Behind them was a coachman. Lu Ban turned around and looked at Guandahu questioningly. Guandahu winked at the two brothers behind him and asked them to climb over the wall to see if there was an ambush outside. He then went out to greet them. "So it's Boss Chiu. Why did you think of stepping on a lowly place today?" Guandahu said sarcastically, "It seems that you are very well informed. You actually found my house." Qin Yining pretended not to understand Guanda's sarcasm and said with a smile, "Brother Li really knows how to joke. We're partners after all, so I have to show some concern for you. Moreover, I haven't received any news these days, so I was very worried about the progress of your recruitment. So I came to see." Guandahu was rendered speechless by her words, but he knew what was the most important thing right now. They had no money and no manpower. When they were at their wits' end, this woman came. Could it be that the heavens were giving them a chance to succeed? Thinking of this, Guandahu smiled and stepped aside. He invited Qin Yining and the others into the house. "It's rainy and cold. If you don't mind, please come to my house and sit for a while." Listening to Guandahu's pretentious elegance and his hoarse voice, it was easy to think of some gloomy things. Qin Yining couldn't help but rub the goosebumps on his arms. He entered the house with a smile on his face. Jinghu Wei, who was acting as the coachman, sat casually on the shaft of the carriage and tightened his straw raincoat and bamboo hat like an ordinary coachman. The house was very dirty and messy. There were still leftovers on the table. Qin Yining looked straight ahead and sat down with Guandahu. Guandahu turned around and asked someone to boil water. When he turned around, he saw that the brother who had just climbed over the wall to investigate had come back. He even nodded at him. Guandahu was sure that there was no ambush outside. He was relieved and could talk to Qin Yining without worry. Qin Yining asked with a smile, "How is it going? Have you found out when the Tayton tribute team will pass by? Don't be too late. Wouldn't it be a waste of manpower?" "Yes, what Boss Chiu said makes sense. I will pay attention to this," Guandahu said perfunctorily. Qin Yining's beautiful eyes turned and said, "The Tayton people are not good people. They have harmed many people in Dezhou. A few days ago, I had a long talk with Brother Li. Although I am a woman, I was also excited. I want to beat them up to vent my anger. So today, I have something to discuss with you." Guandahu asked in surprise, What is it?" "I want to arrange for someone to follow you to rob the Tayton team." "What?" Guandahu was shocked. Lu Ban and the others were also shocked. They were worried about whether they would be exposed. They didn't expect this woman to make such an arrangement. "How can we do that? After all, this is a matter of life and death. We can use money to hire servants. It's better for the people around Boss Chiu to not get involved in this." Chapter 9:31. In the ears of Guandahu and the others, who were currently worrying about money, this kind of nouveau riche tone was filled with mixed feelings. In this world, there were always some people who were born into wealth, and some who were thrown into the mud. These were all fates, and they had no choice. Guandahu shook his head. His thoughts were lively, and he had already begun to analyze. Right now, they already had no other ideas. If they couldn't think of a way through the 4-way account, then wouldn't that treasure be handed over to someone else? Just as this woman said, the 4-way account had money and connections. As long as Boss Chiu wanted, what kind of people couldn't she hire? This woman was very daring, even daring to rob the Tayton. If they told her that they were only going to move stones, would this woman let go? Guan Dahu already couldn't find any other path to take. If they didn't take the four-way account route, they could only watch as the treasure was left in the stone factory, waiting for someone to discover it one day, and it would be taken away by the emperor. They originally could have lived a carefree life, but who would have thought that it would all be ruined by this money that they couldn't even get their hands on? Qin Yining observed Guan Dahu's expression. Seeing that he seemed to have loosened up, he pretended not to know and raised his voice suspiciously. Brotherly, could it be that you're lying to me? You didn't plan on robbing the Taytan tribute at all, right? No. Guan Dahu hurriedly shook his head, but there was some hesitation in his voice. Qin Yining stood up angrily and said, "Could it be that you really were lying to me? I thought you were a good man, and I trusted you so much, but you treat me like this." Guan Dahu saw this and hurriedly explained, "Boss Chiu, you listen to me. I didn't tell you the truth at the beginning because it was for the good of the four-way account." Liu Ban and the others were a bit confused when they heard Guan Dahu say this. They all anxiously looked at Guan Dahu's expression. However, Guan Dahu gave them a look that told them to calm down. Qin Yining's attitude was unyielding. For the sake of the four-way account? Tell me, how did you do it for the sake of the four-way account? Since Guan Dahu had made his decision, he didn't beat around the bush and sighed. Since Boss Chiu wants to know, I won't hide it. Actually, we are all from the Green Sky Alliance. Qin Yining raised his eyebrows. He had expected that Guan Dahu would bring up the Green Sky Alliance, but seeing him speak with such a sincere and earnest attitude made Qin Yining feel a little amused. What? You are? Qin Yining pretended to be shocked. Yes. Guan Dahu's mind spun quickly, and he sighed faintly. Pretending to be profound, he said, Boss Chiu of Green Sky Alliance must have heard of it. When the Dian dynasty was rising, the Jianghu reported man-heir, who wouldn't give face to the Qin Tian Alliance. Do you know who the current leader of the Green Sky Alliance is? Qin Yining looked as if she had been stunned. Guan Dahu said, I'm not afraid to tell you, but the leader of the Qin Tian Alliance is Prince Zhongshuan's wife. Don't tell me you don't know the name of Prince Zhongshuan? Using her name to scare her, Guan Dahu was really pitiful. Qin Yining pretended to be calm. Are you telling the truth? Are you really from the Green Sky Alliance? Seeing that she finally showed her fear, Guan Dahu's heart calmed down. With his hands behind his back, he raised his chin and said, Of course I'm serious. He turned around and continued earnestly. I didn't tell you before because I was afraid you wouldn't be willing to dance with the people of the Jianghu. Secondly, I felt that you might be afraid of being implicated by the people of the Jianghu. That's why I kept quiet. His pretended profound tone, coupled with his unique hoarse voice, made Qin Yining feel a bit gloomy in the rainy and hazy weather. Qin Yining naturally wouldn't be afraid of him. He pondered for a moment and said, I have indeed heard of the name of the Green Sky Alliance. I also know that Prince Zhongshuan is an indomitable hero, and that Prince Zhongshuan's consort is a heroine. Ziyuan and Smile, who were following behind Qin Yining, lowered their heads. They had a better understanding of their Wang Fei's ability to boast. Qin Yining continued without blushing or skipping a beat, especially Prince Zhongshuan's consort. It is said that she is the legitimate daughter of the Dian Emperor, Panin. Under her leadership, the Green Sky Alliance has done a lot of good things. They have done many things to help the victims of disasters. The Green Sky Alliance is also the most chivalrous organization in this dynasty. The Emperor recognizes their existence. That's right. Guando nodded repeatedly. That's why we're listening to the Alliance leader's orders this time. We're going to do a big thing. Oh, what big thing? Qin Yining looked very interested. It was as if the person who was shocked and afraid when she heard the name of the Green Sky Alliance was not her. Guan Dahu thought to himself that when this woman smelled the scent of benefits, she was like a bee that saw honey. Perhaps she really was someone who valued money more than her life. Thinking up to this point, Guan Dahu had already quickly polished a set of words in his heart. After making up his mind, he said, The higher-ups have arranged for us to quietly transport a batch of things without alerting the authorities. What things? Treasures. Treasures? Qin Yining's eyes lit up. What treasures? Why would they order you to transport them? Guandahu lowered his voice and pointed to the south. Back then, the old and fatuous emperor of the Dayan dynasty hid all the valuable things, the taxes he collected at that time, and some of his old secrets before he abdicated. Even the emperor has been searching for this treasure for many years. Now we finally have some clues. Qin Yining was both surprised and frightened. Really? It was your alliance leader who ordered you to secretly transport the treasure? Yes, that's right. Guandahu clapped his hands. But hasn't the emperor been looking for this treasure all this time? The alliance leader is resourceful and found out about this before anyone else. Guandahu's voice was bleak as he said, "You also know that Prince Zhongshuan has been fighting for the country all these years. He has made many heroic contributions, and the common people hold him in high esteem." Yes, Qin Yining nodded and sighed. It's just that their family situation isn't very good. It's said that their family is almost extinct. Isn't that so? When Guandahu heard this, he hurriedly followed up. Wang Ye's contributions are too great, and he threatened the higher-ups. There are many reasons for the extermination of his family. Now that the world has just stabilized, there are many people who don't have enough to eat or warm clothes. However, Your Majesty doesn't care about that and is wholeheartedly focused on building an imperial mausoleum for himself. We know where the treasures are, but Your Majesty doesn't. If you're to find out, he would definitely fill the imperial mausoleum with the wealth of the common people that Dayan's incapable ruler plundered. He wouldn't care if the common people had enough to eat or not. That's why the alliance leader ordered us to transport the treasures out. We can keep a portion of the money for the people to eat, and the rest is for the common people to eat. So that's how it is. Qin Yining's face was full of shock. You know the location of the treasures, but you don't tell the emperor. Aren't you afraid that I'll tell on you behind your back by telling me this? Guandahu thought to himself that even if you had the slightest intention of doing that, you wouldn't be able to walk out of this room today. However, on the surface, he said righteously, "Previously, when we said that we were going to rob the Tatan's tributes, Boss Chiu indignantly gave us 3,000 taels of silver. I knew then that although Boss Chiu is a woman, her breadth of mind is comparable to a man's. You have justice in your heart. Besides, we're doing this for the common people. Hiding it from the emperor isn't considered treason. I definitely dare to tell you this." Qin Yining nodded repeatedly. He couldn't help but have a whole new level of respect for Guandahu's glib tongue. This person had been honed quite a bit under Mrs. Liao in the past few years. Wasn't his ability to distort black and white and sell things on the spot buried? "All right, since you're so straightforward, I won't hide it anymore," Qin Yining said. "Then are the heroes of the Haifeng stronghold also related to you?" Guandahu nodded mysteriously. Qin Yining shook his head, as if he thought himself clever. "So you made an agreement with the Haifeng stronghold to transport the treasures. Who would have thought that the Haifeng stronghold would suddenly be annihilated?" "That's right." Guandahu laughed inwardly. This woman really knows how to think. She even came up with a reason herself, so we didn't have to waste our time making it up. Qin Yining nodded and said, "All right, since I know about this, I definitely have to intervene. As for transporting the treasures, I can invest some money. Your alliance master is such a righteous person. After obtaining the treasures, when you leave behind a portion of the spoils, I'm sure he won't treat you unfairly. When the time comes, just leave some for me so that I won't suffer a loss." Guandahu inwardly sighed in relief. Liu Ban and the others were already beaming with joy. "All right," Guandahu said. "I knew that Boss Chiu would definitely be a reasonable person since you're able to do such a big business. It seems like that's really the case." Qin Yining smiled and said, "I have another presumptuous request. Boss Chiu, if there's anything you want to say, feel free to say it." Qin Yining lowered his voice and said, "Is your Qin Tian alliance still accepting members?" Guandahu raised his eyebrows. "Boss Chiu, what do you mean? I won't hide it from you. I've admired your alliance master for a long time. If you can recruit me into your Qin Tian alliance, the alliance will have one more helping hand. Secondly, I'll also be able to speak with the alliance master. It'll be a win-win situation for us." Guan Dahu immediately understood that this woman wanted to speak with the princess consort. Guan Dahu pretended to ponder, but he was already sneering in his heart. Right now, he was a traitor of the Qingtian alliance, but the person in front of him didn't know that. Why would he temporarily agree to coax her into helping him? After transporting the treasures, he wanted to give her a portion of the spoils and promise her some benefits. At that time, the rest would all belong to his brothers. After they transported the treasures away, where would this woman go to find them? Thinking of this, Guan Dahu laughed. So that's how it is. Since Boss Chiu has such intentions, then it couldn't be any better. The brothers who joined the Qingtian alliance all want to return justice to this world. Since you've already spoken, how can we reject you 1,000 miles away? From today onwards, you're also a member of our alliance. Qin Yining nodded excitedly and cupped his hands. Thank you, Brother Li. Guan Dahu waved his hands. You're welcome. Actually, I also want to apologize to Boss Chiu. I didn't tell you the truth before. My name isn't Li Dazhuang. Oh. My surname is Qiao, and my name is Shang Fei. I'm the home master of the Qingtian alliance. Previously, I wanted to hide my identity, so I hope Boss Chiu can forgive me. Chapter 9:32. Qin Yining was shocked by Guan Dahu's shamelessness. In order to get close to him, he actually lied and claimed to be Qiao Shangfei. Qiao Shangfei was a dying grand scholar and ranked 6th in the 2nd grade. He was extremely knowledgeable and had a scholarly aura. How could he not feel embarrassed to flatter himself? So, let's call Master Qiao. I was rude earlier. Qin Yining quickly apologized with a smile. Guan Dahu waved his hand. We'll be brothers and sisters in the future. Why do you need to be so polite? Boss Chiu is also a heroine. I really admire you. Hall Master Qiao is too kind. I'm just carrying on the legacy of my ancestors. I don't want to be meritorious, but I don't want to make any mistakes. The two of them flattered each other as if they had just had a heart-to-heart talk. Liu Ban and the others saw how the other party was being coaxed by their big brother and couldn't help but admire them. In the end, Qin Yining asked intimately, Hall Master Qiao, where are the treasures you mentioned? How are we going to transport them? Guan Dahu pulled himself together and said mysteriously, to be honest, the treasures are in the stone factory that was used to build the imperial mausoleum. When they were transporting the treasures, they were afraid that they would leak the stuffing, so they emptied out the stones. I'm not sure about the details, but there are indeed some stones in the factory that are emptied out. They're filled with gold, silver, and jewels. Qin Yining stood up and said with shining eyes, then we're going to be rich. What? Oh. I mean, won't the commoners be able to live a good life? Yes, that's right. Guan Da nodded and smiled. He didn't miss the greedy look in Qin Yining's eyes. Qin Yining rubbed his palms together and walked around in circles. This isn't easy. Those are the stones used to build the imperial mausoleum. They can only go in and not out. Moreover, there are so many stones. How can you be sure where the stones are? If we think of a way and can't find them, what if we move the wrong things out? I'm sure. Don't worry. As long as we have people, I know the general location. Guan Dahu was very confident. Qin Yining frowned suspiciously. Really? Hall Master Qiao, if you can't be sure, then my next plan won't be easy to carry out. At that time, the two of us will have to draw water with a bamboo basket. When Guan Dahu heard this, he hurriedly said, there's no harm in telling you. Those things are in the northwest of the stone factory, near the center of the stone factory. Those that came in at that time were all piled up there. He finally got the answer. Qin Yining's heartbeat quickened, but he didn't show it on his face. He said thoughtfully, since we know its location, we have a way to get it out. Looking at the dark and messy room, Qin Yining came up with an idea. Hall Master Qiao, brothers, if you don't mind, we have quite a few properties in the city, and the servants are all ready-made. Let's work together to think of a solution. Since Hall Master Qiao and the others can't live such a hard life, why don't you all come to my place and give me a chance to entertain you? What do you think? Didn't they even have a place to eat? Liu Ban was overjoyed and looked at Guan Dahu expectantly. Guan Dahu also breathed a sigh of relief. They had been too complacent a few days ago, and all the money they earned had been used up on eating, drinking, gambling, and whoring. Now that the Hafing stockade was in trouble, all their hopes were gone. Fortunately, the heavens helped them. In less than 2 days, this problem had been solved. Guandahu pretended to hesitate and said, "That's not good." "Hey, what's not good about it?" Qin Yining smiled warmly. "Since I'm already a member of the Qingtian Alliance, then we are brothers and sisters. Moreover, friends share the same principle, and we have the same goal. If Hall Master Qiao doesn't agree, then you're not giving me face." Guandahu thought for a moment, then sighed and said, "Well, since that's the case, I'll accept." Qin Yining nodded happily, then turned around and said, "Zun, go and tell shopkeeper Yin to tidy up the houses on South Street and arrange for more servants. I want to invite 3 brothers to stay for a few days." Ziyuan nodded. "Okay." She quickly retreated, stood in the corridor with an umbrella, and thought for a while. Then she went straight out. Not to mention how Tang Xiu was secretly helping Ziyuan and avoiding people to arrange a house. Qin Yining, on the other hand, smiled and chatted with Guandahu and the others for a while. When Ziyuan came back, the group of people went to South Street in the rain. This house was indeed owned by Sitong Number. Qin Yining had learned from shopkeeper Yin that shopkeeper Yin knew that Qin Yining and Pang Xiao needed to find a house to stay in, so he made special arrangements. However, Qin Yining had already made preparations, so he declined. Now, it was the best place to arrange for the surveillance of the 6 people of the Qingtian Alliance. Qin Yining saw her off in person and told the maids and older female servants to do their best. Then she left the mansion. After Qin Yining left, Guandahu, Lu Ban, and the others gathered in the parlor and sent the maids out. Lu Ban stood next to the antique shelf and touched every bottle in the roux kiln. Then he stuck out his butt and looked at the coral tree on the lower floor. TSK, this Sitong Number is really rich. Fortunately, that woman knows how to deal with things. Otherwise, we really want to rob her. Guandahu said in a deep voice, "We have to look at the long term. If we touch her now, how can we still carry out our big plan?" Lu Ban smiled. "I'm just saying. Big brother, don't worry, I won't do anything now." Guandahu was very satisfied with the current situation. He smiled and said, "That woman is quite capable. Maybe she has some connections. Let's let her do her work first. Let's wait for the news for the time being." "Got it. But I'm afraid that a knife will expose us." "What's there to be afraid of? We have the support of the Sitong Number now. That Xiu woman wants to use us to find the treasure. Would she just watch us get caught?" "That's true." The brothers were in a good mood. Not long after, the food and wine were served. Guandahu and the others looked at each other and sat around the square table. They looked at the sumptuous dishes on the table and felt even more satisfied. At this time, Qin Yining had already washed off his disguise and changed into a set of casual clothes. He sat at the table and discussed the treasure with Xieyu. "Now that we know the approximate location, it will be easier for us to take action. At least we have a direction," Xieyu said with emotion. "Also, the Wang Fei has allowed them to stay. It will be easier for us to keep an eye on them and prevent them from causing trouble in a place we don't know about." Xieyu had long been convinced of Qin Yining's abilities. The more time they spent together, the more emotional she felt. It was also thanks to Wang Ye's good luck that he was able to have this woman as his wife. With her around, it was even more effective than having a general by his side. "I plan to walk around these days and appear more attentive. We can't let them think that we already have a plan." Wang Fei is right. Wang Fei also has to be careful. We don't know how many people they have in total. Qin Yining nodded. "That's what I'm worried about too. I'm afraid that they are hiding something and have left people outside to provide support. That's why we have to be more careful when we walk around these days to see if there are any tails following us. Actually, even if we know the approximate location of the treasure, it's not much better than before. The stone factory only allows entry and not exit. It's harder than ascending to heaven to move things out. In addition, Wang Yi and Zhong Yiba will be taking over soon. Before they take over, the people in charge of the stone factory will definitely tighten the security so that they can hand over this hot potato to the higher-ups." Xieyu sighed with emotion. "That's why the stone factory security is the tightest right now. That's right. Qin Yining was also in a difficult position. This time, Your Majesty appointed Zhong Yibo as the magistrate of Huichuan County. This is also something that we didn't expect. If it were someone else, we would still be able to do something under Wang Ye's protection. However, Zhong Yibo isn't a stupid person. He must be watching us closely and waiting for us to make a mistake. It's harder than ascending to heaven to move things out from under his nose. When the two of them said this, they sighed speechlessly. For a moment, they looked at each other in dismay. No one could think of a suitable solution. This feeling of knowing where the treasure was but being unable to do anything was even more of a headache than not knowing the whereabouts of the treasure. In the next few days, whenever Qin Yining was free, he would disguise himself and go to the four-way shop to keep watch. She knew that Guandahu was a bold and meticulous person, who knew when he would go to the four-way shop to check out the situation. If she wasn't there, it would arouse suspicion. Fortunately, Princess Consort is cautious. Today, he really came. Jiyin and Bing Tang came out of the side room and craned their necks to look at the door. After making sure that Guandahu and the others had left, they sighed in relief. Bing Tang pouted. As soon as he came, we had to hide. We were afraid that he would recognize us. It would make it seem like we did something bad. Because of that, we couldn't serve you. Qin Yining chuckled and tapped Bing Tang's forehead. You lass, you're troubling your younger sister Ziyuan and younger sister Han Xiao. Are you feeling bad for them? She's obviously jealous. Ji Yin teased. Ziyuan and Han Xiao were also familiar with Qin Yining. At this moment, they also laughed. Just as the hall was filled with laughter, head shopkeeper Yin hurried over from the front. Princess Consort, something seems to have happened in your residence. What? Qin Yining's smile froze. What's wrong? Just now, our shop assistant passed by your residence and saw a lot of people gathered in front of your residence. It seemed that there was an argument. He knew that it was not good to publicize your identity, so he quickly ran back to report it. What kind of people were they? They said that they were all tall and strong. They seemed to know martial arts. Shopkeeper Yin wiped the sweat on his forehead. Should we report it to the authorities? Qin Yining shook his head. No need. I'll go back and take a look. Chapter 9:33. After more than a month of heavy rain, the roads in Huichuan County were muddy, and the speed of the carriages was greatly reduced. When the carriages arrived in front of the newly purchased residence, there were no outsiders in the residence, and only a messy scene was left. In front of the courtyard, many Huichuan County citizens craned their necks to look inside, and many people were discussing. I heard that this is Prince Zhongshuan's residence. Why would someone come here to cause trouble? Prince Zhongshuan is a great hero, and the imperial court should treat him well. How can they allow a rascal to behave atrociously in his residence? Qin Yining's carriage slowly approached, and the sound of the carriage wheels caused the citizens to turn around. Everyone held up their umbrellas or wore bamboo hats to open up a path for the carriage. Qin Yining thought for a moment and didn't immediately get off the carriage. Instead, she wiped her disguise with a wet handkerchief, took off her male robe, and put on a light lotus-colored brocade cloak that was prepared in the carriage. Bing Tang loosened her long hair, tied it into a loose bun, and secured it with a silver hairpin. Ji Yin took the spare embroidered shoes and wooden clogs to help Qin Yining change out of her male boots. After quickly tidying herself up, Ji Yin lifted the curtain and got off the carriage. She held up an umbrella and brought over a wooden stool for stepping on her feet. Qin Yining held on to Bing Tang's hand and lifted the curtain with one hand. She lowered her eyes and leaned out of the carriage. This was the first time the citizens of Huichuan County saw the appearance of Prince Zhongshuan's consort at such a close distance, and there was a moment of silence. Qin Yining stepped on the wooden clogs, and her footsteps made a light, crisp sound. She looked back and nodded slightly at the citizens who were watching at the entrance. Bing Tang and Ji Yin held up an umbrella on each side and helped Qin Yining into the courtyard. The residence was in a mess at this time. The ground was covered with broken porcelain, wooden benches, and other things. The potted plants under the eaves of the corridor were also overturned. The stems were broken, the leaves were trampled, and the potted soil was soaked by the rain. The courtyard that was not easy to tidy up became extremely dilapidated. Many maids, old women, and young manservants were covered in mud and water, and many of them were wounded. They supported each other and kept saying ouch. Qin Yining recognized a few Jinghu Wei among them, and they were all injured. Looking at the extent of their injuries, it was obvious that they had not come with good intentions. Qin Yining pursed his lips. He was even more certain that there was something fishy going on. Since the other party was able to injure Jinghu Wei to this extent, they must have made preparations beforehand. When he arrived at the main hall, he saw Xiaoyu rolling up her arm and letting the manservant apply medicinal wine on it. Mr. Xie is injured? When Xiaoyu saw that Qin Yining had returned, she hurriedly pulled down her sleeves. Princess Consort is back. These are just minor injuries. They won't get in the way. Xiaoyu invited Qin Yining to take a seat with a serious look on her face. Qin Yining and Xiaoyu modestly sat down and asked with a frown, Mr. Xie, what's going on today? Who came to our fu to cause trouble? In response to Princess Consort, you recognize the people who came today. I recognize them? Yes. When those people barged in earlier, I did not detect anything amiss. I explained that this is Wang Ye's newly purchased fu, but the other party kept pestering us endlessly. They even said that they were from the Liu family. Only then did I know that they were sent by Madame Zhong Yiba. It really was her. Xiaoyu's words confirmed Qin Yining's guess. She brought people here to cause trouble today? Did she show up? But did she order someone else to come? Madame Zhong Yiba did not show up. From the looks of it, the people who came should not be Zhong Yiba's subordinates. They should be from Madame Zhong Yiba's maternal family, because the Jianghu people they brought with them called that person Master Bian. He brought more than 20 Jianghu people with him, and all of them are highly skilled in martial arts. The few Jinghu Wei we left behind are also not weak. However, they were outnumbered and had to take care of the safety of the family's servants, so they suffered losses. Why did these people barge in so rashly? Qin Yining's brows were tightly knitted and his lips were tightly pursed. He was already forcefully suppressing his anger. Xiaoyu sighed and said, Madame Yibo came to Huichuan County first to find a suitable fu for Zhong Yiba. She said that she had taken a fancy to this fu. I explained to them several times that this fu was bought by Wang Yi and that Wang Yi would soon come to Huichuan County to take up his position. However, they did not listen. Not only did they beat up our family's people, but they also smashed everything that could be smashed. Xiaoyu's tone was very heavy. It was obvious that he was on the verge of exploding in anger. He had followed Pang Xiao for so many years and had seen many people and many things. However, he had never seen such a domineering woman who bullied others in their own home. I believe that Madame Zhong Yiba's actions must have been incited by Zhong Yiba. This also shows that Wang Yi is in a difficult situation in the court. Even a small Madame Bien dares to ride on our neck and shit. It's true that kind people are bullied and kind horses are ridden. Qin Yining pursed his lips and said, Madame Bien can't quibble that she didn't know this was the fu. She was able to gather so many martial arts masters. It's obvious that she deliberately came here to cause trouble. Zhong Yiba must have secretly incited her to do this. Otherwise, Madame Zhong Yiba would not have been arranged to come to Huichuan County first since she was a newlywed. Wang Ye's letter did not mention that Lu Heng had also set off. Perhaps Madame Zhong Yiba came here to do things for Zhong Yiba. In the past, Qin Yining still had some friendship with Lu Heng. After all, they had gone through life and death together. Later, because of Lu Heng's intentions, Qin Yining began to distance himself from him. Now, not only did he have different political views from Pang Xiao, but he even used such despicable means. Qin Yining's remaining friendship with Lu Heng was about to be completely wiped out. Xiaoyu sighed and turned to look at the people who had gathered outside the gate. He said, Wang Fei, I'm afraid this old man will lead people to persuade the people outside to disperse. Qin Yining nodded. Okay, thank you, Sir Xie. Xiaoyu stood up and walked down the stairs with trembling steps while holding his waist. After all, he was old. Today, his arm was injured and he fell down. Now, he felt pain in his leg after walking a few steps. Jinghu Wei, who often interacted with Xiaoyu in the military, was already unable to restrain his anger. Tang Xiao and the others angrily followed behind Xiaoyu, ignoring the fact that they were soaked through by the rain. It was as if this was the only way to extinguish the anger in their hearts. In the heavy rain, an old man walked shakily at the front. The servant girls and grannies in the yard were still cleaning up the mess in the yard in the rain. Everyone was covered in dirt, their hair and faces covered in rain and dirt. They looked especially miserable. The people who were watching in front of the gate couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. Xiaoyu came to the gate and raised his hands in a bow. Everyone, fellow villagers, this old man is the steward of the Wang Fu. Everyone, look, our Fu has been attacked by bandits. The rain is so heavy. Other than women and children, there are also injured people in the Fu. It is not good to entertain everyone. Dear fellow villagers, please go back. Also, if you get caught in the rain and the cold wind, you won't catch a cold. Xiaoyu was old, but his eyes were filled with kindness. His words were helpless and pitiful, without any of the arrogance of the steward of the Wang Fu. The people had been watching for so long and had a good impression of the people of the Wang Fu. They knew that even the servants of the Prince Zhongshuan's family were very reasonable. Also, something had happened to their family today. It was not good for them to block the gate and watch. This old man is right. Everyone disperse. Don't block the entrance of the Wang Fu. That's right, the old man should take care of himself. The commoners sighed and dispersed, even though they had all left. However, the news of such an incident in front of the prince's mansion spread quickly. Tang Xiao and Jinghu Wei had already picked up their weapons and lined up in front of the main house. Princess Consort, the Liu family is too much. As long as Princess Consort says the word, we will immediately go and raid their house. That's right, Princess Consort. How dare this group of people be so impudent when we are not in the Fu? This group of people have no regard for the law. They don't even care about Wang Yi. Wang Yi, please give the order. As long as you say it, I will seek justice even if I have to risk my life. They were all hot-blooded men from the army. Their lord, whom they had always worshipped as a god, had already been treated harshly by the emperor in the capital. It was as if he was about to be trampled on in the mud. Who would have thought that in this small Huichuan county, even a county magistrate who had yet to take office dared to act like this? How could they endure it? Qin Yining walked to the door and pushed away Ji Yun's hand that was holding an umbrella for him. He let the rain fall on his face. She was also angry. The Liu family was too much. But after calming down, she had to be careful. These people in front of her were Pang Zhao's confidants. They were Jinghu Wei who were loyal to Pang Zhao. They were all fresh lives. Any decision she made would affect their lives. She could not let them take the risk. Thinking of this, Qin Yining raised his hand and said, I have my own plans. We cannot act rashly. Go bathe and change your clothes first. Eat some ginger soup to warm your bodies. Don't catch a cold. When I think of a countermeasure, I will have to trouble you. Wang Fei. Everyone, please listen to my arrangements. Seeing Qin Yining's insistence, Tang Xiao turned around and arranged for everyone to do as she said. Everyone's heart was filled with anger, but they had nowhere to vent it. At the same time, in a large residence next to the Yamen in Huichuan County, Bien Ruhan was reclining on the chaise lounge and had his nails dyed by a maidservant. When he heard footsteps outside, he immediately sat up. How is it? The person who came was Bien Tong. He was Bien Ruhan's distant relative from the same clan. He was almost 40 years old. He was tall and had strong facial features. Looking at his majestic gait, one could tell that this person was a martial artist. In terms of clan wheel, Bien Ruhan had to call him uncle. However, Bien Ruhan's family had already declined. Bien Ruhan had married into a good family. She maintained her status and did not address him as a relative. She only called him by his name. Bien Tong did not argue with Bien Ruhan. Instead, he was extremely flattering. Chapter 9:34. Oh, is that so? Bien Ruhan sat up and pushed away the servant girl's hand. she said excitedly. That poisonous whore was also here? Did you teach her a good lesson? Bien Tong said regretfully. Madam, Prince Zhongshuan's consort is not in the Fu. I don't know what she went out to do. There was only an old steward and a room full of servants left in the Fu. Don't worry, they were all taught a good lesson. Bien Ruhan was very disappointed. What's so interesting about that? We only taught the servants a lesson. It doesn't count as venting our anger. Bien Tong's eyes turned, and he said with a smile, Madam, think about it carefully. Actually, we took people to smash their home and beat their servants. That was enough to vent our anger. What kind of person is Prince Zhongshuan? He is the only prince with a different surname in the current dynasty, and he is also a valiant general who has fought in the north and south. Even your majesty has to be careful when dealing with him. You arrange for people to smash his newly purchased residence into pieces and teach the servants a lesson. If this isn't slapping his face, then what is? Think about it carefully. If Prince Zhongshuan has no face, what face does Wang Fei have? Bien Ruhan nodded as she listened. She couldn't help but feel refreshed. No matter how great a hero he is, now that he has lost the emperor's heart, he has to behave himself. Bien Ruhan stood. When she thought of Qin Yining's face that she loathed, and then thought of how their residence had been smashed by her people, she couldn't stop smiling. Can't she show off how virtuous she is? They are all people that your majesty ordered to accompany my husband on his ascent. I haven't even left yet, and she's already showing off her ability. I want to see if the residence she bought before I did is habitable. Bien Ruhan had hated Qin Yining since the day of their marriage, when Lu Heng abandoned her to go find the Qin clan. He came back dead drunk and refused to consummate the marriage with her. Later on, she went to the palace to find her sister, the Empress, and the Empress Dowager to seek justice for herself. Bien Ruhan had long hated Qin Yining. Now that she could avenge herself a little, she felt very refreshed. Go prepare brush and ink. Write a letter and send it to the residence. Bien Tong paused. Madam, you plan to write a letter to Prince Zhongshuan's residence? Yes, I'll do the talking. Just write according to what I say. Bien Ruhan thought for a moment, then said, Tell Prince Zhongshuan's consort that as a member of Wang Ye's family, she came first in order to take the lead for Wang Yi. They bought a residence, but they didn't say it was a residence. Who knows what kind of place it is? Their family clearly has ulterior motives. In order to frame my marquis, they deliberately kept quiet and let our people fall into their trap. That's why we got into a conflict with them. They can then go and complain. I won't admit it even if they say it to the heavens. Besides, this matter can't be blamed on me. My people only went to discuss the matter of purchasing property in a good mood today, but the servants in their residence spoke ill of them and ordered them around arrogantly. My people were so angry that they beat them up. They asked for it. But seeing that Wang Yi and the Earl are both court officials, I won't pursue this matter. Tell Prince Zhongshuan's consort to discipline her servants. If she has time, she should take care of the matters in the residence. She shouldn't go out and make a fool of herself. She'll embarrass us, the noble ladies of the capital. Bien Tong held the weasel hairbrush and listened to Bien Ruhan say so much. For a moment, he hesitated, not knowing how to write. He originally thought that Bien Ruhan was going to give a sweet date after giving a slap. After offending the Prince Zhongshuan's residence, he would quickly apologize so that the matter wouldn't become more and more outrageous. Who knew that this person would go and provoke them? Madam, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. If we really start a fight, I'm afraid. What's there to be afraid of? Bien Ruhan sneered. We have so many martial arts experts by our side. It's not like I didn't reward them. Do you think I'm afraid they can't deal with the servants in the Prince Zhongshuan's residence? Besides, Prince Zhongshuan is the same as the Earl. They're still in the capital and haven't set off yet. The men from both families aren't involved in this matter. It's just a one-on-one contest between me and that vicious slut from the Qin clan. Why should I be afraid of her? Just write according to what I say. Bien Tong had no choice but to write a letter according to Bien Ruhan's instructions. After Bien Ren read it, he was very satisfied and immediately ordered someone to send it to the Prince Zhongshuan's residence. Do you think that Qin guy will fly into a rage after reading this letter? He definitely will. Bien Tongxin sighed inwardly. No matter who it was, when he was not at home, their home was smashed, their servants were beaten, and the other did not have any intention of apologizing and sent a provocative letter. Even a person made of mud had a temper, much less that loyal Qin Wangfei who came from a prestigious family. Bien Ruhan sneered. It's best if he flies into a rage. If he has even the slightest bit of temper, it'll be best if he brings people to kill us. Bien Ruhan abruptly turned to look at Bien Tong and ordered in a deep voice, after sending the letter, go to the yamen and tell the bailiffs and soapmen to get ready. Tell them that I've heard that someone is coming to my residence to cause trouble and destroy the residence of the future county magistrate. I've asked them to help me look after it. Bien Tong was shocked. He finally understood that Bien Ruhan was setting a trap for the Prince Zhongshuan's consort. Once the letter was sent, the Prince Zhongshuan's consort would definitely be furious. She might immediately bring people to redeem herself in a flustered and exasperated manner. At that time, the bailiffs would suppress them and accuse them of deliberately causing trouble. Bien Tong hesitated. Madam, should we ask the Duke about this matter? After all, this was a matter between the two families. If the bailiffs were alerted, they wouldn't know about the matters between women. Bien Ruhan glared at him. Why are you being so wishy-washy? If you're afraid, then don't go. I have many people at my side that I can use. What nonsense! Bien Tong didn't seem to be angry at all. He even smiled wholeheartedly. I'm just giving a suggestion. The person in charge is still Madam. Since Madam has said so, I'll do it immediately. That's more like it. Bien Ruhan nodded in satisfaction. He sat down and continued to let the servant girl dye his nails. Bien Tong left the room with a meaningful smile on his face. He turned and ordered a servant to deliver the letter to the prince's residence. Qin Yining and Xie Yu were in the reception pavilion discussing how to deal with the matter in the future. When Xie Yu heard that Bien Ruhan had sent the letter, she smiled and said, could it be that he's here to apologize and want to turn a big problem into a small one? Qin Yining shook his head. That might not be the case. Qin Yining opened the letter and carefully read it. He snorted coldly and threw the letter on the table. What a bien sure. She's actually such a shameless person. I've learned something new today. Ji Yun and Bing Tang were standing beside Qin Yining. When they glanced at the letter, they immediately flew into a rage. Xie Yu took the letter, and her expression darkened after reading it. Princess Consort, that bien sure is simply too much of a bully. That's right, Princess Consort. Do you want this servant to teach her a lesson? Ji Yun exposed her arms and rolled up her sleeves. Bing Tang sneered. We've repeatedly tolerated her, but she's becoming more and more arrogant. Princess Consort, we shouldn't be polite to this kind of person. If we really don't do anything, I'm afraid people will think that we're afraid of the Liu family. Xie Yu added, although Wang Yi has been suppressed by your majesty to this extent, and the Liu family is indeed a century-old distinguished family in Beiji with a deep and unfathomable foundation, they've been provoking us time and time again. If we don't do anything, I'm afraid Wang Ye's reputation will really be tarnished. Qin Yining nodded slightly. Sir Xie is right. Ji Yin was excited when she heard this. Princess Consort, do you want this servant to ask Imperial Bodyguard Tang and the others to bring people over now? Qin Yining's finger tapped on the letter. He lowered his eyes for a moment and shook his head, saying, no need. Bing Tang was disappointed, but Princess Consort, who said that we have to bring people over to fight? In my opinion, this is a method that we'll only use if we have no other choice. Ji Yun and Bing Tang exchanged glances. Xie Yu asked curiously, Princess Consort, what do you plan to do? Qin Yining leaned close to Xie Yu and whispered a few words in her ear. Xie Yu burst out laughing when she heard this. What are you laughing at, Sir Xie? It's nothing. This old man thinks that Princess Consort's method is very good. This old man is just pitying that Madame Bien. How stupid would she be to deliberately make things difficult for you? That's right. Princess Consort's method is still the best. Bing Tang and Ji Yun were also very excited. Qin Yining smiled and waved his hand. allowing Xiaoyu to arrange this matter. After Xiaoyu left, she folded the letter with a cold expression and stuffed it into the envelope. Princess Consort, why are you still keeping this thing? You should tear it up and stuff it into that stupid woman's mouth. Qin Yining smiled and shook his head. I'm keeping it for Wang Yi to see. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Bing Tang and Ji Yun. I was bullied. Don't tell me that I'm not allowed to complain. Bing Tang and Ji Yun giggled when they heard this. Su, just go ahead and complain. If Wang Yi knows that you've suffered such a big grievance, the Liu family will definitely be in big trouble. Qin Yining smiled and nodded. She didn't care. No matter how much trouble Bienrihen caused, he was just a clown in her eyes. Fighting with her was just a way to make up for it. But just as Xiaoyu said, she cared about the Wang family's reputation. Pang Xiao was a new noble, but Liu Hong had the support of a century-old family. He had contacted many old officials from Beiji to form an alliance. In terms of foundation, Pang Xiao was not as good as Liu Hong. Because of this, they couldn't let the Liu family step on them. Pang Xiao hadn't arrived yet. She only treated it as a battle between women. She wanted to teach Bien Ruhan a lesson first. Percent at the Liu residence. Bien Ruhan excitedly ordered his martial arts experts to be on guard. The Yaman's bailiffs were also ready to arrest the culprits. But who knew that when the sun set and the key was locked, the bailiffs had already left impatiently. Qin Yining still hadn't arrived with his men. Bien Ruhan was in an extremely good mood. He apologized to the bailiffs and gave them a big bonus. He also gave all sorts of rewards to his martial arts experts. After closing the door, Bien Ruhan laughed heartily without caring about his image. What Wang Fei? What daughter of the family Qin? What Pan An successor? It's all bullshit. She's just a coward who doesn't even dare to stand up when others step on her. A coward. The Duke was really blind. Why'd he take a fancy to such a flashy but impractical person? Could it be that you only care about her face? Bien Ruhan dared to say this, but his men didn't dare to reply. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.